Hello. I believe we are live. I'll take this thing off for now until I start shivering again. Could you check it out and make sure it says I'm live?
Hey, give me just a second.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, hello.
I'm trying to type with one hand. Well, type with my PlayStation controller with one hand.
Oh, that's even worse. Vinny,
live now.
I'm live. Would you like to come over? Yeah? Say hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to the Vampire Chat.
That's right. The Vampire Chat Room. What are you reaching for? Oh.
Well, if you have any questions for me, just say my name and I'll answer for you.
Oh, good idea. Good idea. So you wanted to be part of this vampire live stream. Why?
Because I kind of know a little bit of vampires.
Okay, what do you know? Tell me about it.
Well, I know vampires suck blood.
Okay, they drink blood. Try not to do that with your mouth full, okay?
And they turn into bats.
They can, yeah.
And there's a show about my babysitter as a vampire.
But you haven't actually seen that one yet.
Nope.
What movies have you seen with vampires?
Well, I haven't seen any.
Haven't seen any. That's not true.
The Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, but you're just, you're the baby vampire. You haven't gotten into the vampires full score yet, huh? But you still like the idea of them?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know something? Thank you for coming on my live stream, dude. Can I have 5?
And remember, chat room, ask me a question and I'll answer it.
Okay. Remember, no snacks in your living room, okay? There we go. Welcome back to Leading Blind. I'm Star, and with me again this week, as last time, as I'm sure you can tell by the bit of audio feedback, is Mo.
Hello.
If you cannot hear her, tell me, and I will try to adjust. As Vinny has already told you, and as I'm sure you know, based on the notifications I've left everywhere, and, well, that's about it, really. And the name of the chat and the name of the stream, we'll be talking about vampires today. But we're going to give people a potential chance to show up. And this needs to go back a little bit, actually. There we go. And I'm going to turn my magnifier back on now. So that way I can hopefully read some of the chat room if anybody actually chooses to show up. So where should we begin, my dear? Just at the top. My list is out of order now. Completely out of order. So where would you like to begin?
You can go ahead and pick.
All right. I'll look at the beginning of the list I sent you. I don't want to put a smiley face on the list. I want to look at the list. Trying to do this with the little image of you right on the thing is not easy. Okay, Vinny, it's now time for you to leave Mommy alone, okay? Why don't we start with the big one of my ultimate favorites, Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola with, Gary Oldman, starring as the big, awesome, baddie vampire. I mean, it probably is my favorite vampire movie, like almost ever.
Unfortunately for me, this is one that, after watching it again recently, it wasn't as great as I remember it being.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt it was a little cheesier than I remember.
All right.
I still enjoyed it very much, but it was different from what I remember. It was like a little more cheesy than I remember.
I think the cheese is part of what I love about it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the cheese, but it's not how I remembered it coming across as.
Right.
And it's also probably the one film that I wish Keanu Reeves wasn't in.
I can second that one. That one I can completely agree with. Keanu is the weakest link.
I absolutely love Keanu Reeves. I totally admit that he is not the greatest actor, but I would still marry him in a heartbeat. He's like one of the best people in the world. But
he seems a guy who doesn't have. Go ahead. Sorry.
But like in that movie, it's just and it's not even like his bad acting or anything. It's just he does not fit with everybody else in there.
Yeah.
He's like a big sore thumb that sticks out.
Yeah, he is definitely the weakest link. Vinny, could you please turn that down just a little bit, please? Please.
And I'm not even saying, from an acting standpoint, it's just he himself with the whole rest of the actors in that film just doesn't mesh.
Yeah. Back then when he was still pretty noob, it was like all the other actors were up here and he was like down here. I need you to turn off the camera because my eyes keep going down instead of up to my camera. It's such a distraction.
Hopefully I can figure out how to do that.
You should be a little camera icon versus the phone icon. You should be able to just click on the camera. If you lose me, then just hit the phone button to call me back. Let's see, what else have we got on the list? We've got lots of things on the list. Okay,
how's
cool.
that? Do you not see me anymore?
Yeah, I can't see you anymore, and I closed mine too now, so I can actually look at the list we're sharing. That'll make it a little easier to do that. Why did my thing come back on? I turned that off. Okay, apparently it doesn't want me to turn it off. It's saying, no, you must be on a video call. Okay. And I keep having to scroll to the beginning of the list again. All right, here's one that I'm pretty sure we can both agree on. Interview with the Vampire, or just the Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles.
Okay. I guess I'll kind of lump Queen of the Damned in there with it.
Yeah, we can separate the movie Queen of the Damned if you want, because that one's kind of shit by comparison.
Yeah, by comparison, it's shit, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And it has a kick-ass soundtrack.
Right. Okay.
And they did pick a good person for Lestat, even though he didn't exactly aesthetically fit. He had the right personality.
Yeah, except he didn't play the right personality. That was the problem. It's like, here you got Tom Cruise, who's like, well, he kind of is acting high as a kite, but I think that's the point of Lestat. He's the I am going to drink and be merry and screw the rest of you.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it doesn't come across at all. Get out of here. Vinny, you said you were going to behave, remember? So please, thank you. But it's I will put you to bed very early if I must. Children. Yeah, Tom Cruise's Lestat was just more vivacious and fun, and Stuart Townsend is the typical emo goth kind of in a way. It didn't show Lestat's fun, so that bugged me a bit.
Yeah. That and Tom Cruise, as psycho as he is as a person, he is a really good actor.
He's an amazing actor. He's somebody I don't feel guilty still having a crush on in spite of his shortcomings.
Yeah, but no, like the whole cast of that movie was just really good. Like,
yes.
You had Brad Pitt as Louis, who he was totally, perfect in there. And then Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who that was pretty much before that.
No.
And he kind of, I wouldn't say stole the show, but he definitely has a presence in that movie.
Right.
Even though he doesn't look like Armand is supposed to look, that's who I picture when I think of Armand.
Yeah. I hate to say it, I imagine that too, but that's because I didn't know for a few more years that he was supposed to be a 16-year-old cherubic looking redhead. You know, like a Russian redhead. But that's something Queen of the Damned did get right. It's probably the only fucking thing it did get right, other than the vampire immolation that kept happening. Was the look of Armand, and they never gave him a name. They never gave him a
Who was that redheaded guy? Who's the ginger? Oh yeah, by the way, that's Armand.
Yes, exactly.
You only know if you were like a fan of books.
Yeah, which of course I was. I remember you and I went to see Queen of the Damned.
That whole scene toward the end where all the ancients kind of show up, like most of I don't think hardly any of them are introduced really, other than maybe they say the name here somewhere.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know who it was. You were familiar with the books.
Yeah, Maharet was it. Her sister Makare wasn't even in it. They don't mention Enko or I forget the third guy's name. I think the girl. There was one girl. She wore like a veil of some kind. Yes. That did they mention her by name at any point? Because I was going to say I think that's supposed to be Pandora, but I wasn't sure.
I don't remember if they mention her name at all, but it is supposed to be Pandora.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And I think I knew that just by looking at her. I was like, oh, it's Pandora. I don't know why. I knew it was her. If I hadn't seen pictures before you and I went to see it in the theater, I would not have recognized Armand, you know, probably, because he had such a tiny role. He was like in half a scene. and then they killed him, I think. I could be mistaken. It's been so long since I bothered with that movie. But when it comes to the books, I'm so glad the TV series is finally coming out, even though I probably won't be able to access it because it's going to be on a streaming service I don't have with my luck. It's going to be like on HBO or something, and I'm going to be like, fucking hell, again. The first world American problem strikes again. I don't get to watch my vampire show, damn it. I loved like the first 5 or 6 books. I think I gave up after the Vampire Pandora. But, at that point, I was like, Anne Rice's, beauty series, which is her BDSM series, is kind of bleeding over into the Vampire Diaries. And to me, no matter how sexual they were, that's not what the Vampire Chronicles, that's not what it was about. So that got a little irritating to me. Is like Vampire Armand was a lot of fun because I got more Marius, even though he was buying Armand as a 16-year-old sex slave. That was kind of disturbing, but the rest of it was great. You know me, Marius was my favorite vampire like ever. Until I saw Vincent Perez play him in Queen of the Damned. Sorry, Vincent Perez. You seem like a fine actor, but
Vincent Perez is decent, but like that was not Marius at all, and it's probably not even his fault.
Yeah, it's not his fault, I don't think. I mean, he was good in the Crow, City of Angels. I think that's the only other thing I've seen him in, unfortunately. He's just not big over here. If you get past the ones that have been made into movies, I really liked Tale of the Body Thief, which had more David Talbot in it, and I always saw like Anthony Hopkins in that role when I was reading the books because he's supposed to be an older man in the books, and him and Lestat have like this affair. I find it really strange and interesting how in the books all the vampires can be telepathic, but if you're the sire and the fledgling, you can't read each other's thoughts. You can't share telepathy. So it's like if you're only one generation removed, for some reason you can't share thoughts. And I'm like, wouldn't it be the other way around? Wouldn't it be the closer you were to your side, to that person in blood, the better the signal would be?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, but it was what it was. And I remember in high school, I got a fixation on Night Island, which was kind of like this resort island Lestat opened up after Queen of the Damned, where all the vampires could gather if they chose to. You know, because they were loners, but they still liked to reconnect, so they could just go there, you know? And then Memnoch the Devil, the 4th book, was really good as well. That was when Lestat met God and met the devil. He drank the blood of Christ and became kind of like a vampire god. And in my very personal opinion, the single most gross vampire thing I've ever heard of, read of, or seen happened. Because after his adventures, Lestat is starving, and he smells blood coming off of this little human girl that's actually a nun in plain clothes. And he smells blood on her because she's having her period. And I will just let you imagine what happened, because he does not bite her neck.
I'll just say, if you want to know what happened, if you're familiar with Hypo Negative and the song Wolf Moon, there you go.
I know nothing about that. Which is probably a good thing. Essentially, in layman's terms, it's essentially about going down on a girl when she has her period. Ah, okay.
It's an awesome song, by the way. Awesome song.
You'll have to share the link with me. But you see, even me, I'm a girl, so I have periods, and even I get screamy when it comes to period blood. You know, so.
Nothing makes you feel more disgusting than when you have your period.
Exactly. All right, shall we move on from Anne Rice and the screamy shit?
Alrighty then.
Lost Boys.
Okay. Definitely a big, I guess, preteen movie.
Enormous influence on my vampires.
I think we were around that age when it came out.
Yeah, we were maybe not even 7 when it came out, I think.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and I saw it probably when I was 10. Young Kiefer Sutherland with fangs. If I wasn't into vampires already, that would have done it.
Yeah. But you had like everybody in there. Like you had of course you had Kiefer Sutherland. You had both the Coreys.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Alex
Jason
Winter.
Patrick was really hot at the time. I think that was like the first thing I remember. No, that's not the first thing I'd seen him in. First thing I'd seen him in, I think, was Roller Babies or Solar Babies.
Jason Patrick.
But
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Jason Patrick. And then Jamie Gertz was also in that.
Mm-hmm. And Alex Winter. Alex Winter was in it too.
Alex Winter was in there.
From Bill and Ted.
Yep.
Yeah. It was just full of hotties. Although when I grew up, it's like, of course, you know what it can be like when you grow up around a character that happens to have your name. There's a connection there sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you hate your name, so maybe not for you.
I don't hate my name at all.
Okay.
I've hardly ever called by my name. So when I find like another Maureen, it's like finding a unicorn.
Watch Rent. Except you won't like that, Maureen.
Because it's an older name, you know, it's an old-fashioned name. There aren't a whole lot of Maureen's running around,
yeah,
you know, that are our age or younger. They all tend to be older ladies.
Right.
So it's rare to come across one. So it's like, oh my God, it's another Maureen.
Yeah, I remember the first time you ever said my middle name is Brandy, and I'm like the singer, what? that totally blew my mind. But anyway, yeah, Lost Boys was definitely a coming of age story in multiple ways for many ladies.
Yeah.
You know, the hot, young, cool vampires. If you want to hear the essay on that one, go watch Maven of the Eventide's review on Lost Boys. I'm not even going to get into that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be treading very carefully while we talk about these vampires, because I know I'm going to be stealing some of the information I got off of her videos. Very smart, well-informed lady. I like my vampires to watch and enjoy, not to investigate. You know what I mean? So if I know something, I should.
One of the things I really liked about that movie
Yeah.
is even though it was very much like a teen-oriented movie, like especially that scene where they reveal that they are vampires to Michael.
Oh
they
yeah,
don't really
that.
hold back on the violence and the gore.
Yeah, I think they leave some of it to your imagination.
Yeah, a little bit, but you know, it's a very scary scene, especially seeing it as a kid. You know, you see Keith Sutherland and you're like, oh, he's cool.
Yeah.
Turns around with those contacts and those fangs out, and everybody, you know, starts dismembering all these people, and you're like, holy crap, where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't remember. Is anybody in here? Is there absolutely anybody in the chat room? Oh, I'm feeling like I'm all alone over here. I don't remember being afraid of that scene. I think the scene that got me more for some reason was when they were dangling off of the railroad tracks, and maybe because it was situational.
I want to see. Wait, look up.
That was me. I typed that.
No, look up.
Look up where? Look. See?
No one chat. No one's questioning about me yet.
I don't know if they're going to, huh?
Yeah, but it wasn't that scene wasn't scary for me. It was just such a kind of tonal shift.
Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, it just got to me, the mist and the you could fall and die, holy shit thing. That scared me more, but I grew up with Poltergeist, you know? That's pretty extreme horror for a little kid to be watching. So I was kind of, yeah, they're vampires. They do what they do.
And then I guess I could bring up the sequels.
Go for it. I watched 5 minutes into the second one. That was it. As soon as Edgar Frog showed up.
I got about 10 minutes into Lost Boys 2.
Uh-huh.
And that was the first movie that I can remember actually turning off because I couldn't watch any more of it.
Oh, man.
And I watched some shitty movies, but I could not get more than 10 minutes into that thing.
There are some really shitty movies on our list.
The third one is a little bit better, though. The third one is a little bit better.
Yeah. That's the one where it's like a drug, right?
What was that?
Is that the one where they treat the blood like a drug?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say to that one. Amazing soundtrack, amazing acting, a little bit dated and goofy, but it's just amazing. Maybe we have our rose-tinted nostalgia glasses on, but I love Lost Boys. It's still
a decent movie, and it's a good introduction movie for someone trying to get into horror who's maybe a little younger.
Yeah. Yeah. It works great.
Because it does take the subject matter serious, but there's also that, you know, kind of comedy going through it also.
Yeah, it's a nice soft buffer. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we'll talk about these two jointly since they're basically the same film. Let Me In and Let the Right One In.
Okay. Let the Right One In, which is the original film.
Right.
Surprised me very much at how good it was and how different it was compared to most vampire movies I've seen, because the main vampire is a child.
Yeah.
And it's done in complete or mostly seriousness. And the relationship between the two leads is very believable.
Yeah, it is. I remember I rented that movie because I saw it in Target, and I was like, well, I don't want to buy a vampire movie if I haven't seen it. It might really suck. So I rented it, and it was okay. I mean, that was as far as I could really say. I still have a hard time watching that one because of the subbed or dubbed issue. If I listen to it with the dubbing, the voices don't match, and honestly, the little girl sounds horrible. If I do it subbed, if I do it subtitled, then I'm having trouble following it anyways because I'm sitting there straining to read the subtitles.
Yeah,
So
it definitely is a little different because it is a foreign film, very much so a foreign film.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little quirks and stuff to it that somebody who's not used to watching a foreign film would kind of be turned off by.
Right.
But for me, that just makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
But and then the remake, Let Me In, I actually felt was a decent remake at the time that came out, when most of the remakes coming out at the time were pretty much dog shit.
I really like
that
it.
That one was actually pretty decent.
Yeah. I mean, it's an early Chloe Grace Moretz role, which is great for her. I mean, Elias Koteas was in it, and he was, he had a small role, but he was good in it.
Oh, and I love Elias Koteas.
So, yes, all the way back to Prophecy and Teenage Mutant.
He's one of those actors who's always good in whatever he's in. No matter how crappy the movie is, he's always good.
I haven't seen him do anything bad yet, but I haven't seen him in a lot either, I'll be honest. At least not to my knowledge. He could have been in something and I just didn't recognize him, But, yeah, I mean, Casey Jones, where can you go wrong with Casey Jones?
Yeah, Casey Jones, and then, of course, his role in The Prophecy.
Yep. Oh, the detective. I read the book by Linkvist, Let the Right One In, and I'm sure you know some of the backstory that didn't make it into the movies, right?
A little bit of it, yes.
Yeah, like how the female vampire isn't actually female; is a castrated male.
Yes.
Yeah, all that
castrated
stuff.
Male.
Her father is a pedophile. Yeah, I mean, it's creepy stuff. It was a okay book. I ran into some issues with it because it is translated, but they weren't massive. My issues with it were slightly because it was a translated book and slightly because it tends to drag on the side plots. But other than that, so it's like I'm having a hard time getting back into the main story now. But it was still a damn good book. And there was a scene in the book that it shows something about some vampires are like this in other stories, but they don't really show it very much. Is that she decided that she was hungry and she had to go hunting on her own. And she ends up killing this old woman and setting the house on fire to hide the fact that she was attacked by a vampire. But the old woman was hopped up on so many pain pills that when Ely drank her blood, she got high as a fucking kite. So she was not thinking clearly when she set the house on fire either. And it's just a weird scene because you're reading it from her point of view. So for all of a sudden, for her to be thinking this way, it just was weird and fun. And I think you get a little bit of that in the Vampire Chronicles, but like the movies don't show that to you, It's like when the stat drinks from somebody.
I like the idea that like if a vampire drinks somebody's blood and they have drugs in their system, they should be affected by it. And I've seen that in a few things here and there. I have seen it in other vampire films or shows or whatnot, but not like a whole lot. But I like when it comes up because it's a neat little thing that makes sense to me. Yeah.
I mean, then you can go to the other extreme where nothing affects them except in like the Vampire Diaries TV show. They drink a freaking lot, especially the underage drinking. Oh my God. But the vampires tend to drink because it helps stunt the thirst a little bit. They're like, we don't really they can get drunk if they drink enough, but generally they're just like, it sates the thirst a little bit. It helps us push off having to feed again a little bit. So if they're just having an edgy day, they don't have to go roaring out on somebody. They can just take a sip of bourbon. That'll get me through until I can hunt, It's not that explicit, but they constantly are like, here, it takes the edge off. It takes the edge off. And we will probably get to that, but you know, we're talking about specific topics, so I won't get into the Vampire Diaries right now. Let's see, what else do we have here? Oh, the next thing is the Vampire Diaries or the originals. Dawn and I are going to be doing a live stream probably the last weekend of July about the Vampire Diaries. So I don't want to get into that too much, but they're pretty typical vampires, you know. They have something that protects them if they go out in the sunshine, but they're pretty vulnerable to sun. They need to drink blood, obviously. Yeah, but you know, wooden stake will kill them, all that. They're pretty atypical vampires, or typical vampires. It's hard to go further than that without exploding. So I will leave it and save it up. I will not blow that wad until July.
Unfortunately, I can't really add much to that because I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I read the books aloud to you back when we were in high school because you used to spend so much time at my house.
Yeah.
I read all 4 of the original books to her. Now there's like 5 more books. Actually, there's a lot more than 5, but Ghostwriter, fuck that shit. Yeah, there's only like 4 others after that, maybe, that are written by L.J. Smith herself. So after that, I've got Monster Squad, which isn't really a vampire movie, but it has a kind of kick-ass Dracula, so we got to talk about that.
That would sound one of the coolest Draculas.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week, but we got to talk about it here, because Dracula is rarely scary the way that guy is scary. Like, can you look at, do you have the ability, or do you want me to look him up real quick and see who that is? Because...
you can look it up.
Okay. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. It just takes me a little longer. But why don't you go ahead and you talk about what you love about that Dracula while I'm doing this.
Well, I like that even though the movie, for the most part, is a comedy and aimed toward younger, like preteens, he is actually, most of the monsters are just kind of, they're kind of a little, kooky, but not super scary. Whereas Dracula actually is like very intimidating, and you don't fuck with him. He screws up the cops. He, like we said before, like one of the best lines in the whole film is when he takes this like 4 or 5-year-old girl, grabs her by the chin, lifts her up to eye level, and is like, "Give me the amulet, you little bitch," to a 5-year-old, and then just, it's the best thing ever.
Why am I having trouble finding it? I've got Monster Squad 1976 TV series, Monster Squad in development, Monster Squad TV episode. That's not a TV episode. They're counting the freaking lame-ass Nostalgia Critic. Monster Squad Forever, that's a special feature documentary. Monster Squad in Color 2012. Do I need to type in the Monster Squad? I mean, do I have to get that specific? Seriously? Oh, wait. Apparently, I do need to get that specific. Isn't that lame? It's like I went to type in all I did was click on the title thing again, and it popped up. But it didn't pop up in my search results. Lame. Come on. Where are you? Sorry, it's like my laptop can't do multiple things at once. It does not like me, so it goes super slow. Sean Patrick Dell, Count Dracula, Duncan Rhaegar. I want to say Rhaegar. No, he's not a Targaryen. Duncan Rhaegar. He's really good. I mean, as amazing as he is, I think the standout for me is Frankenstein in that movie. But it's like he keeps 3 schoolgirls in a closet and turns them into his brides. That's some scary ass shit.
Dracula that you don't fuck with.
No.
They took him totally serious.
Yeah. He was scary. This was pre-Lost Boys, I believe, wasn't it? Like, just by a little bit.
It was around that same time.
Yeah. I know I saw it way before Lost.
First.
Yeah, I saw it way before Lost Boys, and I remember the opening terrifying me. I remember the very first time I saw the opening of the Monster Squad, where it was panning across the crypt, and then Dracula dropped from the ceiling and transformed from a bat to a human. All the way up to when his crate drops and he transforms back into a bat in that cargo plane. I saw that right before I had to go to my grandma's for a weekend because my brother stayed home and watched it with my dad. I was terrified of that movie. I mean, I told you, it took me years to understand that comedy and horror could be in one movie because I never saw the comedy. He scared the hell out of me. I was like one of the few vampires that actually did scare me. Because he was a vampire, not a villain who happened to be a vampire that scared me. You know what I mean? Oh no, I'm doing that whole "do you know what I mean" thing. Okay, let's go to a kids show real quick, a kids movie. Let's talk just briefly about The Little Vampire, because I saw this quite late. Well, I saw it when it came out, but we were older. We were like late teens, I think, when it came out, or early 20s. And I was like, it's Richard E. Grant, bitches. And Alice Krieg. I mean, they're amazing as vampires. It's just a kid's show. You never see a vampire kill or even drink from a human. You know, they drink from cows and turn the cows into weird demon vampire cows. But I just think it's
I have not seen this, but demon vampire cow sounds interesting.
I think it's adorable. I will have to send you like a link to a scene or something. It's just a little Disney movie, you know? I've got to stop.
I know of it. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've got to stop saying that. People are going to poison themselves making a drinking game out of it. Yeah, now. Oh, okay. Every time I say that, somebody type in or you say drink. Every time I say you know. And I mean, there's not much to say about it. They're very atypical. They're very typical vampires. It's a cute kids movie, but I just think it's worth checking out if you like vampires and you like a cute thing, you know. Maven says this whole thing about it being a kind of a bully revenge story for kids, which probably isn't a good thing for kids to watch, and how it has a message of conformity, which she doesn't care for. And I can see her points of view, but I don't care. I just like the movie. You know, it's a best friends vampire movie.
Sounds like looking a little too far into a kid's movie.
Well, that's her job. She's allowed. Because she does strictly the vampire stuff. We'll permit her to do that. Okay, guilty pleasure time. The original movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yes, I was not a big fan of the TV show.
I don't remember the TV show, so.
But I really did enjoy the movie.
Yeah, like now it's like everybody forgets it exists or hates on it. Screw you people.
Yeah, I really liked the movie. It has an almost unrecognizable Paul Rubens in there.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Luke Perry.
And then you also have the incredible Rutger Hauer.
Yep.
Who I just love the guy. He's great in everything.
I love Lothos. Yep. You know, I always saw Rutger Hauer, maybe because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, maybe just because of the movie Flesh and Blood. I don't know why, but every time I would read the Vampire Diaries, I would see Rutger Hauer as Damon. You know?
Okay. I
And
can kind of see that.
and I think that he was sort of who Anne Rice had in mind when she started writing the original screenplay of Vampire Chronicles, but I could be wrong about that. I could be misremembering. It's because she wanted him to
I
stop.
can see that.
Yeah,
Rutger Hauer in his prime, yeah.
yeah.
Maybe not so much as Lothos, because he was kind of past his prime by that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, back in his prime, he was well, he's a very intense individual, and that comes across.
Yeah. I still had a total vampire crush on him in that movie. You know, but this was way before I saw him in Flesh and Blood, which I think came out afterwards anyways, but he was in better shape in Flesh and Blood. Whether it was earlier or later, he was in better
Flesh
shape.
and Blood came out way before Buffy.
Okay.
That was way earlier.
Okay, I can't keep track of the years of these movies. We have over 4,000 movies. I can't keep track. And for those of you who are watching that don't know, no, Flesh and Blood is not a vampire movie. It is a period
It's an awesome
film.
movie. You can see it, but it's not a vampire movie.
Yes, if you like the director of Fatal Attraction, then you might
If
like
you
this
like
movie.
Paul Verhoeven movies, check it out.
Yeah, thank you. Paul Verhoeven, right? I said that right?
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven.
Okay.
It's an early Paul Verhoeven movie. Medieval. It's actually one of the more accurate kind of medieval ones I've seen.
Right.
But yeah, it also has Jennifer Jason Leigh in there, so check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, I've always
But it's not a vampire movie.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see the guy who plays Steven in that movie in another thing, but I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. But
Yeah, I don't think I have either.
Yeah. I've seen the baggy tits chick in other things like Crybaby.
Oh yeah. Susan Tyrell, I want to say, something like that.
Yeah, maybe. It went down.
Yeah, she always plays like a crazy woman. I think she is one in real life. But yeah.
Yeah, she strikes me as somebody that's probably really a little crazy. Okay, let's go a little bit non-traditional. Let's talk space vampires. Life Force.
Okay.
Where they are sucking.
Life Force.
Yeah, where they are sucking out your energy versus your blood.
It's an interesting little movie.
Yeah.
It's one that's kind of gained popularity as a cult film recently.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those movies that a lot of people have never heard of.
Yeah. It's canon.
But yeah, I believe it's one of Tobe Hooper's earlier movies.
Yes.
I think it was Tobe Hooper
Yes.
that directed, who also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different. It is not your typical vampire movie at all.
No.
It does have some very cool practical special effects.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart is in there for a little bit, and that's always fun.
Oh yes. Until he gets wasted. Again,
and if you appreciate the naked female form, you will appreciate Life Force.
Yes. I'm going to steal off of Maven's video on this subject a little bit again, just because I never would have noticed it if it wasn't for Alyssa Hansen's review of this. It's basically Dracula, but with a female Dracula, and it's space aliens instead of, a Transylvanian vampire. Because a lot of it's very similar. She's right about that. So if you're wondering why I decided to put it on the list, that's why. While we're talking about non-traditional vampires, I'm going to go off to a book thing real quick because I need to acknowledge a Vampire of the White Court from the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. In particular, Thomas Wraith. There are 3 kinds of vampires in the Dresden books: the Red Court, the Black Court, and the White Court. The Red Court are your basic, I will suck your blood vampires. I can't remember what is special about them. I think they basically wear human skin suits, but I could be thinking of the Black Vampire Court. I don't know if one or both of them wear skin suits. I can't remember. But, they're like these ugly black vampire, like alienish things underneath the skin suit that they wear. But you know, so two of them are kind of traditional. One's more demonic. One's kind of your traditional Dracula-ish. And then there's one that's more of an emotional vampire, and they come from different courts. I could be getting some of this mixed up. Don't take my word for it, but I can tell you for a fact that white vampires are basically succubi and incubi. They feed off of sexual energy. There are other families in the white court that feed off of like fear or other emotions, but we don't get to see too many of them. We get to see a lot of the sexual ones. Because, spoiler alert, Thomas Wraith is the half-brother of the hero of the Dresden Files. And they form a bond. So we get to see a lot of him getting very, very hungry. So it's fun. I needed to do a shout out to Thomas Wraith.
Another one that is kind of a non-traditional vampire movie. For any of you that enjoy Guillermo del Toro films, check out Cronos.
I have not seen Cronos.
Cronos it's interesting. It's very different. Of course, Ron Perlman is in there. He's in virtually every Guillermo del Toro movie.
He's not in Mama.
But it's an interesting take. It's definitely not a traditional vampire film. It kind of has to do with this relic that has like an insect inside it, and if the insect like bites you, you kind of become a vampiric type of entity.
Okay.
But it's an interesting little film. It's different, that for sure.
Right.
Let me see.
While you're talking about that, because I haven't seen it.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, while you're discussing that, I'm gonna type up to a person or two real quick. But I haven't seen it, so I'm listening. I'm just going to do a quick little. They are not even online. Okay, well, they're not on Facebook anyway. All right, I was just gonna be like, are you coming to my live stream? Where are you? I'm going to be beggy and clingy. Oh well. Go ahead, please tell us more about Cronos. I've seen Alyssa's review of this one, but I can't comment on it because I haven't seen it.
Well, I can't really go too much more into it, because it really is, it's a different one. If you enjoy Guillermo del Toro, you might like this. It's kind of before he really became famous over here in the States. One of his earlier ones. But it still has that Del Toro-ness to it. For those of you who are fans of his movies, you might kind of know what I'm talking about. You can kind of tell from watching the film that it is a Guillermo del Toro film.
Do you remember if it still has the whole moth theme in it?
The mom theme?
No, the moth. Guillermo loves his lunar moths. Yeah.
Not that I remember. I mean, the Kronos is an insect. It's not a moth, though. It's kind of more like a scarab beetle kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So where would you rate that?
It's encased like in this clockwork piece.
I'm gonna sneeze. Ow! Ow! I sneezed towards the intake vent, well, the heating vent, and it echoed. Ow!
Another kind of non-traditional, but yet also at the same time love letter to vampire movies that I really enjoy that I didn't see until fairly recently, that is pretty much a pure comedy, is What We Do in the Shadows, which was done by Taika Waititi, who's the guy who did Thor Ragnarok.
I've been wanting to see that so bad.
It is definitely, if you are a big vampire fan, there are three main characters. One of them is like an Anne Rice type of vampire. One of them is like Dracula type of vampire. And one of them is like a Nosferatu.
Yeah, we'll get to that one.
And it's pretty much these three guys coexisting together in a house in New Zealand and just kind of interacting with modern society. And it's so funny. Taika Waititi himself actually plays like the main character, who's the kind of foppish Anne Wright type vampire.
Okay.
It is very, very funny. There are so many jokes in there that poke fun at the different vampire mythologies and their powers and stuff, and how that would work in modern times.
Right.
It's hilarious. There's a bat fight where two of them turn into bats and start fighting each other, and one of them like runs into a power line.
Oh.
It was so funny.
Oh, that's great. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yes. And the one that's kind of like a Bram Stoker's Dracula kind of vampire.
Yeah.
Like, he's kind of lost some of his powers after he had a fight with his ex.
Okay.
Or he says it's like a fight with like this demon or whatever, and it turns out the demon is like his ex-girlfriend.
It's a satire.
How
Yeah.
he can't fully transform now because he's lost some of his powers. So it shows the part where he does transform like into a cat, but it has a cat body and it still has like his face.
I need to see this. I'm waiting for Netflix to bring it up.
You need to see this because there are so many little jokes and gags all over the film that if you're a fan of all different kinds of vampire movies, you'll appreciate.
Yeah, that's so cool. All right, time for the dreaded topic, the Twilight Saga. Go ahead, say it, get it out of your system.
Oh, God.
Say the thing everybody...
I am not a fan of the Twilight Saga.
Say the thing that all haters... Yeah, go ahead.
I am not going to bash it because I totally understand why some of the fans of it are fans of it. Personally, it is not my cup of tea at all because I kind of prefer a more quote-unquote traditional vampire.
Right.
But I did give it a chance. I have seen the first Twilight film. Mm-hmm. My sister absolutely loves it as well.
Oh, maybe I should have let her friend me on Facebook.
I did watch it, and I was, following it along. And I will say that the part where he started sparkling is when I kind of lost it and started laughing hysterically. And said, this is officially one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. But I'm not going to go and bash it because I don't absolutely hate it. I totally understand why, some people really like it. Yeah. I totally get how, young teen girls would be all over this.
Yeah.
But just in my opinion, I've only seen the first film. I have not seen any of the other ones. I've seen reviews of all of them, so I know pretty much what happened throughout the series. But after seeing the first film, I had no desire to see any of the other ones because just the film itself was just bad to me. The acting was bad, the directing was bad, the story was bad. It was just all bad. That's all I'm gonna say. You can gush away about all the stuff that you like about it. I totally understand. Since I know you would love this, and you do.
Yeah.
It's just not my cup of tea. I could go on and on and on about the Legacy of Kain series and why it's so awesome, and you would just be like, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, and you probably wouldn't be into it. But go ahead. I'm going to use the restroom for a minute, but you can start talking about Twilight. I shall return in just a moment.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to gush away about it forever because I'm a Twilight defender and a fan, but I usually get more upset when people call it like, oh, this piece of misogynistic bullshit, which there is some misogyny in the characters. I think it's actually meant to be there, at least on some level, but kind of like E.L. James's idiotic bitch of 50 Shades, I don't think the author was aware of how deep it goes. But people tend to blame Edward for that, where I'm like, okay, well, for one thing, the excuse as to why is written in. Vampires have a very, very hard time changing in any way. It takes a lot to change them, and when they do, it is essentially set. Like Bella changed Edward. Now, do we know how or why? No, because we don't see him pre-Bella. We see him once he's interacted with her, and he's changed because of her. So is it a vast improvement in what people modern day want to see? No. But he grew up in a different era, so he has a different idea of what a guy should be and with his girl. And he's very protective of her, especially when she's human, which I can kind of understand. I mean, especially in their world where vampires have venom. You know, there are plenty of places, plenty of stories where vampires have venom, but you're going to die or you're going to turn. That makes you more vulnerable to them than if they could just tear you apart. You know, all they have to do is bite you and you could die or turn. So I can understand him being a little overprotective, but he does take it too far. The character I have a big problem with is Jacob Black, because he is a manipulative son of a bitch and asshole. Everybody has a problem with him because of his connection to Renesmee in the last book. Yeah, it kind of sucks a little bit, but, you know, I don't think that's his biggest issue. I don't have a problem with the story. I've listened to the audiobooks dozens of times and will be happy to listen to it dozens more. But it did take me time to get into it. When Twilight, the movies came out, I saw posters in the Suncoast video store. And I was like, what's that? My husband's like, oh, it's this vampire craze thing. I said, oh, okay, well, it's vampires. Let's go check it out. So, of course, he took me to see it. We sat down in the theater and it started filling up with all these tweeny boppers. And I went, oh, shit. What are we in for? Annoying teeny bopper girls on their phones. Fuck. Wasn't particularly well acted, no, but I did enjoy it for what it was, and something must have made an impact, because there's a scene where Edward saves Bella from potential gang rape, and then they have dinner, and I dreamt about that part of the movie that night. So I knew it made some kind of an impact on me, even though I just kind of dreamt that scene verbatim with nothing special about it. It was just as if I was watching that part of the movie again. A couple of years later, I saw the other movies, but I took the audiobook out. And at first, I hated it. It was so dry. I did not like the reader. The first book is the weakest. I think it's the first book by Stephanie Meyer. So, you know, learning curve, the books get better. And I just appreciate them for what they are. I understand that people have issues with them. I don't agree with what all of the issues are to the extent some people have them. But I do have all the movies. I have had and read all the books. And I will defend them. I won't say, oh, you can't like it because the vampires don't sparkle. I will say that's a stupid-ass reason not to like it, because you should appreciate anybody who tries to do something different with an old and tried issue. But that's all I can say. I didn't mind that they sparkled because it was something different, even though I couldn't tell they sparkled when I saw it on the big screen because the effect was not very good. It's like, what the hell is going on? Why did the film just start doing something weird? I can't see what's happening. I've also read the book, The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner, who is a vampire on the enemy side in Eclipse. And when she sees another vampire in the sunlight for the first time, she says she can understand why people used to think that vampires burned in the sun. So I think that was a little thing to put in there as to why Stephanie Meyer might have originally wrote this idea. But she didn't put it in the original series, and that was probably a mistake. And yeah, it's got problems. I still like the hell out of it. I don't care. And that's all I can really say about the Twilight series, you know? Up, drink. How drunk are we now? Are you back?
Yes.
All right, cool. That's all I have to say about it. It was a lot, but I was trying to fill in time too while you were doing your thing.
Okay.
Next, Frank Langella's Vampire of Dracula. I have a couple of Draculas on the list, but him and Gary Oldman were a couple of the only classic Draculas I listed.
I don't think I've seen all of that one. I've seen bits and pieces. Don't really remember a whole lot about it.
Okay. He was like the first romantic Dracula where he stopped being the bad guy. I think his performance as Dracula was brilliant. I liked Laurence Olivier. I think Laurence Olivier as Van Helsing. And I think the rest was kind of a dud. I never particularly liked anything about it except for Frank Langella's performance, and even that isn't stellar. I just enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Frank Langella is one of those actors that is kind of good in everything he's in. Even if the movie is crap, he's usually good. He's a very theatrical actor.
Yeah.
So that would add a lot of gravitas to the character.
I've seen Frank.
I just don't remember. I don't think I've actually really seen it other than a few clips here and there.
I've seen Frank in 4 things: Dracula, Masters of the Universe, The Ninth Gate, and he guest starred on an episode of sorry. He's guest starred on an episode of Law & Order SVU with Jason Ritter and I believe Ian Somerhalder. So that sorry, excuse me. So he's a damn good actor. I just haven't seen a lot that I could appreciate him in specifically, you know? It's like when he played Skeletor, that was about it.
He honestly was the best part of Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, he kind of was.
On the topic of Dracula, I guess I can bring up one of my favorite So Bad It's Good movies. Because this is, oh my god, it's so bad. It's so bad, it's wonderful.
Is it on my list or is it on your list?
No, it's not on your list.
Okay, just
but
wondering.
it has two different titles. You've either heard of Blood for Dracula, or it's also called Andy Warhol's Dracula, which stars a very young Udo Kier as Dracula. Almost unrecognizable if you've only seen him in later films. But he's very young in this, and oh my god, that's all I have to say. One of the neat things, everything is just so bad about this. Like everybody in the film has a different accent.
Is that the one where Dracula goes to Italy, or is that different?
Yeah, he goes to Italy and stays with this family that has like 3 daughters and like this handyman. And the one little piece of lore that they add in this film is that he can only survive on the blood of a virgin.
Okay.
If the blood he drinks is not virgin blood, he gets physically ill.
But you would think if that was the case, you'd think if that was the case, he would raise someone and keep them held captive, and just never let them out.
Apparently, he doesn't think ahead. Let me see. Oh, actually, there's 4 daughters because I forget about the one that he ends up kind of with at the end before he dies. But anyway, even though they're supposed to be an Italian family, like everybody has a different accent.
That's horrible. That's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. The acting is just crap. Oh my god, like Dracula's assistant guy who travels with him.
Yeah.
That guy, oh my god. His line delivery is amazing.
Oh, that's great.
But there are a couple scenes where Dracula, of course, two of the daughters are, pretty much they're sleeping around with the handyman the whole time. So when Dracula tries to drink from them, he gets ill and actually goes into almost this seizure fit, vomiting blood into the bathtub and stuff, and it's crazy. And one of my favorite lines is, "The blood of these whores is killing me."
Oh my gosh.
It is utterly ridiculous in the best way. So it's one of my all-time favorites. So bad it's good, kind of up there with Troll 2. Blood for Dracula, aka Andy Warhol's Dracula.
Okay, fair enough.
Check it out. Don't watch it with kids, though. It is not kid appropriate.
All right. Shall we talk about another one of our guilty pleasures?
Okay.
Vampire Resurrection, now also known as Song of the Vampire.
Yep, that's another one that's so bad it's good. It is a micro budget vampire movie that was done by Denise Duff, who you may know from the Subspecies series. She played Michelle.
Yes, and she was also in the Vampire Journals briefly.
From Subspecies 2 on, she was Michelle.
Okay, yeah.
But I believe she directed this as well as stars in it.
Yes, it was her feature debut as a director.
It's micro budget, very very tiny budget.
Crap effects, crap script, crap acting. Well, almost crap. Almost all crap acting. I really like the guy who. I really like the guy who played the vampire, Jonathan.
Yeah, he was decent. He was probably one of the better parts of it, and she herself wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
But everybody else was just kind of horrible.
Yeah. Everybody else was so bad, and unfortunately, the guy who played Jonathan, the only time he got to vamp out was when the movie got the stupidest. When he was vamping out, all of a sudden, there would be these strobe lights and this glowing effect and the fake fangs and this fog rolling in behind him, and they got this.
And the crappy kind of knockoff Blade techno music.
Yeah.
Which didn't fit the film at all.
It's oh my God. It's seriously, you can't walk in like that, slow motion, grab a guy by his shoulders and then throw him to the side and you vamped out. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. But.
And apparently he got his vampirism from sort of
a voodoo witch
/ psychic / stab with a vampire bloodstained dagger or something.
Yeah, he was turned into a vampire by Miss Cleo, okay?
Pretty much. Miss Cleo stabs him with a vampire stained dagger, and that's how he becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
And the only way to cure it, I guess, is to get back together with his love or something.
He doesn't even get cured. He doesn't even get cured.
Yeah, he doesn't even get cured.
He could make her one, but she chooses not to.
Yeah.
No, okay, I'm going to tell everybody the story because I love the story. I wish they could remake it with the same guy as Jonathan, but everything else bigger budget and better everything. Or even recasting, but it starts out in the 1800s or maybe earlier with a guy who is having an affair with a woman. He's kind of taken her under his wing in his plantation, who's being abused by her husband, brutalized by her husband. So basically, if you've seen North and South and Patrick Stewart, it's, he plays Patrick Swayze's role kind of. Except the jealous husband comes in and tries to shoot him with a crossbow, but she gets in the way and dies. And in his grief, he wants to be reunited with her, so he goes to the voodoo witch queen, and he gives her a shit ton of money, and then she stabs him in the heart. And he dies. And he wakes up 300 years later because his love has been reincarnated And so it's kind of like the Bram Stoker's Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, except he actually was dead for like 200, 300 years. And he reawakened as a vampire. And the reason it was redubbed, or I'm assuming the reason it was redubbed Song of the Vampire, was because there was a song he used to sing to her that when he's resurrected is the song that seems to resurrect him. There's a woman in the club singing this old song, and that's what he's first drawn to when he wakes up. And the reincarnation is once again a victim of an abusive husband. Oh, somebody's here. I can't see. Somebody just... Gotta turn up my magnifier. The trash picture show? Am I reading that right? Yo, how you doing? It's an interesting handle you got there. We talking vampires.
Vampire films for the most part.
Yeah, we're going into books a little bit, and God knows there'll be a book series I will get into, a couple of them, but that's towards the end. Have you seen Near Dark? I believe I saw it years ago. I didn't have it on my list because I don't know it well enough. What about you, Mo?
It is on my list. I have seen it several times. It is very good. I enjoy this film quite a lot.
Uh-huh.
It is definitely one of the more serious vampire movies, and it's also kind of non-traditional in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But it stars Lance Henriksen as one of the main vampires, as well as Janine Goldstein from Aliens,
Uh-huh.
and Bill Paxton.
Yeah, I thought he was in that.
Is one of the crazier ones, but he's really good in it. But yeah, it's a really good vampire movie. Takes it very seriously. They are vampires that you do not want to fuck with. They will mess you up. And it's also one of the first ones I remember that had like a child vampire, where it's like a he's the oldest, I believe, but he's in the youngest body. So there's the neat kind of thing there where he looks like a child, but he's actually, the oldest of them all.
Trash Picture Show also says it stars half the cast of Aliens.
Yeah, pretty much. It's an Aliens reunion with vampires.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I saw Near Dark. I don't think I made it through it. It could have just been the wrong period of time in my life to watch a movie like that because it was a weird combination of the horrific and the romantic. And this was...
Yeah, it's definitely more on the horrific side, and knowing you, it wouldn't really be your cup of tea.
Yeah. But
it was like right up my alley.
I mean, as we've already discussed, I kind of defend Twilight, so... I definitely have a specific...
You're kind of more on the romantic vampire side,
yeah.
Where I'm a little bit more on like the vampire purist, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, but we know how to meet in the middle, which is great.
Yes, like I said, I did not trash Twilight. I understand why you like it so much, but to me, it was crap.
Yeah.
And I have my reasons for it, but I'm not going to bash it.
And like I've said many times, I don't go over the moon defending it and saying it's better than sliced bread or anything. I just happen to very much enjoy it because I just do. I don't even have a specific reason for it. I just do. It's got somebody that drinks blood in it. It's probably the only reason. I can't say what I like about it. I just like it. It is what it is.
I do not like it at all.
Yeah.
So.
Which, damns you to hell because it means I'm probably going to try and con you into watching at least one more before you die.
No.
Okay, let us keep going. Let's talk about at least the first two. I saw some of the third one, but I can't comment on it because it sucked. Like, I didn't finish it. Let's talk about the first two of the Dracula 2000 movies.
Okay.
Because you and I saw...
one of the first ones I saw with Gerard Butler.
Yep, one of the few I've seen with Gerard Butler, because I'm not a huge fan of his.
One of the first ones I saw with Gerard Butler,
Yeah.
where he doesn't really look like Gerard Butler, like you see him in everything else.
But he does. It's him. There's nothing special about it. It's just Gerard Butler in leather and black. You know?
Do I remember anything really all that special about it? Not really. At the time, I really enjoyed it, but it's kind of one of those films that you kind of forget about after a while, a little bit.
It's just a modern day teeny bopper, well, not teeny bopper, but teenage retelling of the story of Dracula. Not done very well, but it has Christopher Plummer, who's amazing in everything he's in. It's like I believed his Abraham Van Helsing. Sorry, but I did. Gerard Butler was hot, and I like my romantic hot vampires, so it worked for me.
Yeah, he was good looking in that one.
And it had Sean Patrick Thomas, who I had a little crush on at the time.
I think it also had Jerry Ryan, who was big as 7 of 9 at the time. So she was like the sex symbol of the film.
Yeah, she was one of them. There were only like 5 of them.
She really wasn't all that great in it. She was just kind of there.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that especially for us that came across, because when you said it, I said, oh my God, that totally would be me.
Hang on, Vinny?
Is the part when Dracula seduces Lucy.
Oh God, yeah. Vinny, turn it down again, please. Go ahead. When he seduces Lucy.
And he's like talking all sexy to her, you know, all close and everything. And what was it? Like he was being really sexy, trying to seduce her, and she's kind of being coy a little bit. And like the last line she says before like they have their sex scene is, "I was named after the Peanuts character." And you were like, that's something you totally would say. Like if somebody was coming on to me strong, I would say something stupid like that, and I totally agree with it. That's exactly how it would go down.
Yeah, and then immediately it went into he's literally fucking her on the ceiling scene, and I was like, on the
ceiling.
I want to be that person right there. I was like, I want to have hot vampire ceiling sex. We were teenagers, you know. It was my senior year in high school. You got to give me a little credit, you know. It's just hormonal vampire chick. Give me that right there. And what are we saying now? We are saying the chick from Vitamin C. The chick from Vitamin C was Lucy?
No, not on the roof. Literally on the ceiling of her bedroom.
Yeah. Yes. They shag on the ceiling, like they're hovering, like they start rising off the bed, and then he flips her over and he bangs her on the ceiling. Do you see the second comment? He wants some clarification, and I think you know the 7 of 9 chick or whoever, and the other one.
Yeah, she was from whichever Star Trek was out at that time, but it was Jerry Ryan, the girl who played 7 of 9.
He and Vitamin C, right?
Movie besides like Star Trek.
And Vitamin C is in there too.
And Vitamin C was Lucy. She's the one that gets banged on the ceiling with Vitamin C.
Yeah. Okay. My mouse keeps not cooperating with me. I'm having trouble making it move over to read these things. Isn't there one set in space? That would be Dracula 3000. I don't remember it very well, but I did watch it.
It is a total and complete piece of crap.
Yeah, I don't remember it. I remember the one thing that stuck out to me about that one was when they're talking about crosses, because they have to do research on vampires, or there's a cross on the coffin or something like that. And they're like, I don't understand, because religion has been dead for so long and crosses have like been banned or something, that they had to do research on it to find out what it was. I'm like,
it stars Casper Van Dien, and I think Coolio is also in there.
Huh.
And I think Erica Laniak is like the female lead.
Right.
But yeah, it is just is crap.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sci-fi movie special thing, like a Sharknado type thing.
It definitely has a sci-fi movie quality to it. Yeah, Sci-Fi Channel movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crap.
Going back to the Dracula 2000 real quick, I remember falling in love with the idea that that Dracula started out as Judas Iscariot.
That was a neat little twist. That I did appreciate. That was cool.
And when
that was different.
Yeah. And I think, is it in that one or the second one when he's like in the mindscape with the chick where he lists who he is? That was in the second movie, right? Where he says Vlad Tepes, Caligula. That was the first one? Okay. Because he's like Vlad Tepes, Caligula.
No, not the list of stuff. Maybe that was the second one.
Okay. I like the second one, by the way.
That he was Judas Iscariot.
Yeah. Can we talk about the second one for a second, just briefly? Because that was one where you saw the vampirism as an infection, because Diane Neal played the main female character, and he bit her, and it was infecting her, but slowly. And you could see it.
Is that the one with Jason Scott Lee was like the priest going after him?
Yes, Jason Scott Lee was the priest in the second one, and also was it Schaefer? Is it Chris Schaefer from Nightbreed?
Craig Sheffer.
Craig Sheffer. Thank you. Sorry. Craig Sheffer from Nightbreed was in that as well.
Yeah, I had a crush on Craig Sheffer for the longest time.
I can't see anybody having a crush on him, but then again, maybe he's just not my type. But then again, I mean, look who I married. Look who I married. But no, I have Nightbreed now. I just got the director's cut of Nightbreed, and I saw it for the first time. I'm like, I still don't see it. Then again, I don't see it.
Nightbreed is amazing.
I respectfully disagree. Maybe I should watch it again. I haven't watched it a second time yet. Okay, what's this comment? It says, "Oh, my fave obscure vampire film is Forsaken, the Desert Vampire." I've seen the DVD cover Forsaken, but I've never seen it, I think. No, I'm thinking the Perfect Creatures cover.
I've seen Forsaken. I think I even have Forsaken. But yeah, I think that's the one with Jonathan Shake, I believe, is the main vampire in that one.
Do tell.
I don't remember anything super different with it, though.
I'm going to close my blinds real quick. My blinds are wide open and it's getting dark out there. It's weird. Sorry.
The only part I really remember is toward the end when they have like the confrontation with the vampires.
Okay.
And Jonathan Shake's character is kind of like going up the stairs singing Metallica's Enter Sandman. And I was like, yeah, Metallica!
If you're going to sing Metallica, that's the song to go with.
If you're going to sing Metallica, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a big metalhead, but you did get me into them.
I would have gone crazy, but, Enter Sandman's a good choice.
So now all we need is somebody singing Crazy Train. And my son will be happy. Every day for like 2 months, Mo, I would go in him and have Alexa play Crazy Train to wake him up. And he'd be up and ready to go.
To wake him up?
Yeah. He loves that song. But now for some reason it will only play a sample of it. Like it'll still play other songs, but it's like, here is a sample of Crazy Train. No, fuck you. I want to listen to the whole song. Yeah, I don't know why. I really like the second Dracula as well. I just do. I almost never watch it. It's something I would really, really have to be in the mood to watch versus the first one. And I have to be in the mood to watch that one too. But I appreciate it. They bring in more lore that's probably just pulled out of somebody's ass, like the untying all the knots or counting all the rice, whatever. But it could be from real lore that I missed somewhere along the line. Okay, then I've got, just because I put Hotel Transylvania, but, we don't have to really talk too much about that one. It's just, it has a vampire in it. It's cute. And I just lost the list again. Damn it. I'm not having any luck over here. I keep trying to look at the list and the list keeps disappearing on me. Okay. I'm going to just pull it up now because this is pissing me off. I sent her the list on Facebook, so I keep trying to look at it on her Facebook thing, but okay. Scroll up.
Well, one that we
Okay.
already mentioned but haven't really got into was subspecies.
Yeah.
Along with, I guess I'll tie into that also with vampire journals, which is related to subspecies, but is really kind of different from subspecies.
And technically decadent evil, which is way different from both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But subspecies, really the only thing to really get away from that was Radu Vladislas, the main vampire in subspecies. He's kind of more of a Nosferatu type vampire.
Yeah. I can see why Raju is an icon.
Yeah.
But I hate it. I kind of hate it. I like the story. I like the basics of it, but he drives me fucking batshit. I don't like him.
Yeah, I kind of get why you wouldn't like him. But yeah, he's aesthetically very different. But it's a full moon series, so it's kind of B movies.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge he said that Near Dark and Forsaken were big influences on the vampire comic Nestor that he did, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah. So that sounds cool.
That sounds good. Yeah, I can see how those two are both kind of westerns in a way, so that makes sense that those would be influenced. So I imagine it's kind of a western type of deal, or that kind of feeling to it. Mm-hmm. Which also kind of Vampire Hunter D has a very western feel to it as well. That's an anime.
And we'll get to this in a bit, but there's also John Carpenter's Vampires, which is very western.
Yeah, which is a very western feel to it.
Oh, you know what I didn't put on the list? The Stranger.
Yeah, The Stranger is a very western feel, and that was a very good recent vampire movie that's kind of a hidden gem.
And it changed the lore just a slightly bit. Yeah, they did a little bit something different.
Changed the lore a little bit.
Yeah. We will get to it though, because you want to talk about the Vampire Journal stuff and the Blood Species movies. I have not seen all of the Blood Species. I remember when you got me into Vampire Journals. Yeah. Vampire Journals was amazing, as far as I had been concerned, when you introduced me to that one.
Vampire Journals was a spin-off of Subspecies.
Yep.
I believe they say that Ash, the main antagonist, was a descendant from Radu, or Radu was his master.
Yeah, and then
that's pretty much the only connection, really. But then the subspecies after Vampire Journals,
which was 4,
included Ash.
Yeah.
Yeah, subspecies 4 included Ash.
Right.
So, so they kind of went back and forth. But Vampire Journals was kind of a little bit more towards Anne Rice type vampires.
Which would be why I fell in love with it.
Yeah, but still kind of in the subspecies universe, but more of an Anne Rice feel to it.
Right. Okay, time to put this back on. I'm cold.
But it's also, it's almost kind of a little bit better movie than some of the later subspecies films. The first subspecies still holds up pretty good for a B vampire movie. The sequels maybe not quite so much.
Well, if you look at Every Single Day for Night Shot,
it's was actually held up pretty good for a low budget B vampire movie.
Yeah. We mentioned it briefly earlier, but we didn't go into it. Mo probably knows that one better than me. It says, "Have you seen Razorblade Smile?"
Yes, I have it. I own it.
I've seen it, but only once.
I really love the ending of that movie. The ending, just is great.
Remind me of what the ending
was just like a big game between the antagonist and the protagonist.
Okay.
But yeah, you find out at the end, spoiler warning, that the antagonist and the protagonist were kind of in it together the whole time, and this was just a game that they play.
Okay.
Essentially.
All right. I'm going to ask you, give me just a second. You can keep going. I just need to check on Vinny real quick. He's being weird. Hey, bud, what's up? You okay?
Other than that one is a very low budget I want to say probably English or some kind of European production on that one. I want to say Eileen Daly is
Yes.
the main
Yeah, that's what he
actor
says.
in that one,
Yeah.
which I think is the only thing I've really seen her in.
Right. Okay.
But she thought, she plays like, an action-y type of like assassin, I believe. But I also like how they do her interactions with people at the vampire bar. Like I like her little interactions with the goths at the bar, where like she's a real vampire and they're all, goths, so they look up to that kind of thing, but they don't know that she's a real vampire.
Right.
And so when they're talking about like vampire tropes and Dracula's powers, and she's like, think about it, well, turning into a bat and turning into a mist, it's fucking stupid,
Yeah.
But I thought that was a neat little thing that they threw into that movie, and I really liked the ending of that movie.
Right. Should we talk about the Underworld series? Because you got me into that. Because by that point, I was finally discovering Bill Nighy. Or I don't think I'd actually discovered him yet. I discovered him. Vinny, that does not go in the living room. I think I actually discovered him after the fact, but that was the movie that made me discover him. I think. And yeah, that's kind of.
Underworld series, I think the third one was my favorite, which was kind of like a prequel.
Yeah, I couldn't sit through that one. I couldn't get 10 minutes into that one. But we've agreed. I like the romantic ones.
The first two were okay.
Yeah.
It kind of came out at that point where it was kind of oversaturated, and ever since that one came out, all of the movies had to have both vampires and werewolves in it instead of like just vampires or just werewolves.
Yeah.
Like from that point on, they all had to have both.
I mean, plenty of vampire stories have had werewolves involved. I mean, the Suki Stackhouse stuff had it, and the Vampire Diaries has had it,
Those all came out after Underworld. Underworld kind of started that whole thing, where now all of a sudden they all had to have both of them.
I don't know about the Suki Stackhouse books because I've never read them and I don't know when they came out, but Diaries came out when I was in middle school, if not earlier. So it came out, early to mid 90s. And it involved vampires and werewolves. The werewolves are not major players, which could make all the difference. But there is a werewolf character in the books. The TV series, The Vampire Diaries, does play on the rivalry between vampires and werewolves.
That's what I mean. I mean, not the books, but it didn't show up in TV and film predominantly until after that point.
Yeah, that I could give you that one. That I could agree with.
Yeah, I don't mean that that's the first thing that had them both. I know other things do, but that's where it first came up with. That's where it started showing up predominantly in visual media.
Why, thank you.
For a long time, you couldn't have just a vampire movie or just a werewolf movie. It had to have both of them.
Right. Right. Well, thank you very much. Trash Picture said he just tweeted about the stream. See if anybody else can come in. That would be nice. I mean, this is the longest I've sat with had sat with nobody in the chat room, Usually a couple of my friends are watching, but they're probably just busy tonight. Can't expect them to be at everyone. All right, so I like Underworld. I like the hierarchy of the vampires in that one, but there's nothing special about the vampires as a whole as far as I'm concerned. Yeah,
I kind of agree with that. There's nothing really special about the vampires.
Star said, again, have another shot.
Vampire.
Yeah.
I do like how they introduced how memories and stuff can be passed down through the blood.
Right. I liked that part too.
Like by drinking another vampire's blood, you can kind of see their history.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing.
And see their thoughts.
Yeah. Because
that was interesting. I did like that.
Yeah, and you have to you have to know what you're doing when you do it too, because Celine didn't know what she was doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked the first two, but they declined as the series went on. I could agree with that. I've never actually sat down through the whole third thing. I bought it from a flea market to finally watch it, and I couldn't get 10 minutes into it. And it was kind of a worn copy, so that didn't help. And I saw
I enjoyed the third one pretty much after that point. I didn't care for them anymore. They were pretty crap after that.
Yeah, I didn't care for the fourth one too much, but it was entertainment. And I haven't seen the fifth one, but I liked the first and the second one. I was really let down when they didn't resurrect Bill Nighy's character for the second one. I was like, God damn it, he's what made the first movie worth watching. I loved Victor. I mean, don't ask me why. I loved Victor. I'd rather watch him than Michael, you know?
I do think that Victor was a better antagonist than Marcus was.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. How about, now I've only seen this movie once all the way through, so maybe you've seen it more than me, Mo? Priest?
Okay. Priest?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I like Paul Bettany.
I really like Paul Bettany.
Yeah.
So when that came out, I was like, I'm definitely checking this out. And that's one that is also very Western. It pretty much is a Western, a futuristic Western.
Yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic.
It reminded me a lot. It reminded me a lot of like Vampire Hunter D kind of stuff because it is very much future mixed with Western.
Man, we're only halfway through the list. Yeah, I didn't love it, but I liked it. It's not something I seek out very often.
It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. You know, I like Paul Bettany. He's good in it. He's pretty much good in everything he's in.
Yeah. I liked the basic story.
Yeah.
And the special effects were good. This was made.
Carl Urban in that also? Wasn't Carl Urban the bad guy?
I don't remember. All I remember is that Christopher Plummer was in it, and I kept thinking that like Ian McKellen or Patrick Stewart was in it because I was mixing them up at the time. Like those three people,
I want to say Carl Urban was the bad guy in that one.
Okay. One of the few things I remember about that one is they have like, what was it? Was it a vampire prison in that one? And they go to investigate it. I can't remember.
Something like that.
And I remember the trick where they throw the rocks into the air and he climbs them like stairs. I was like, badass.
Yeah, it's stupid, but badass.
Okay, here is one that gets a lot of shit, but you know, I gotta bring it up. Oh, I hit a wrong button. Okay, sorry. Dracula Untold.
I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm. I like it too.
I didn't think it was great or anything, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. You know, I'm not going to shit on it. I liked it.
Yes. Yes, and the priest is the villain. You're right. Which is also the case in John Carpenter's vampires, although he's a different kind of villain. Well, they're both villains. You're right. He said the priest is the villain in Priest.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, we will be getting to that because I have something to say about the John Carpenter one. We will get to that. But yes, I like Dracula Untold. I heard Charles Dance was in it, and I was all over that. You know, saw this like hot dude on the cover. I was into that. It was Dracula. I was into that. So I went to see it, and I liked it. I wish Charles Dance could have been more in it.
Yeah, he wasn't in it very much.
Yeah, and then, you know, shortly after that, they did the whole Beauty and the Beast thing, and I was like, ooh, I get to see him as Gaston. I mean, yeah, Chris Evans. I was like, yep, let's go. Let's do this.
Not Chris Evans.
I mean,
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans. I'm sorry. I keep doing Chris instead of Luke. Luke Evans.
Also known as not Orlando Bloom.
Yeah. They're not Orlando Bloom, yeah. Salem's Lot. I've seen the original Salem's Lot and the remake with Rob Lowe and Rutger Hauer and Donald Sutherland. How many times has Rutger Hauer? Jesus, how many times has Rutger Hauer played a vampire? Because he was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was in Dracula 3. He was in Salem's Lot, and I think he was in another Dracula movie as well, of some kind. But I can't remember what it was. He's been in at least 4 vampire movies. It's like he was.
I can see that.
It's like he was born to play a vampire.
He's a very intense, guy. He has a lot of presence, so he's a good pick to play a vampire.
Yeah, except Dracula 3 was an absolutely horrendous movie, and he was one of the worst parts of it, at least out of the very little of it I've seen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was, way past his prime.
Yeah.
So.
It's like at least it was well past his prime in the 2000s when he played Barlow in the Salem's Lot. But Barlow was a small enough role where it didn't fucking matter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you go.
It actually fits the source material better than the original.
Mm-hmm. And I always forget his name. What's the name of the actor? He played Father Callahan in the remake. He was in The General's Daughter and The Green Mile. Do you remember The Green Mile? The older guy, like the warden or whatever he was, whose wife was dying of cancer.
I don't remember that character.
Oh. He's in a lot. He was the general in The General's Daughter.
I haven't seen that one.
This is gonna kill me because I know his fucking name. I have to look him up every goddamn time. It's gonna be like him, you stupid bitch. Oh, he was in Cromwell. Is it James Cromwell?
James.
I think he was in American Horror Story, Asylum.
Yeah, I think that was James Cromwell.
Okay, thank God I don't have to wait for my computer to function properly.
You're talking about like the doctor guy from Asylum?
Yeah, the Nazi doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was James Cromwell.
I love James Cromwell, but I can never remember his name. I'm so sorry. Oh, it's so embarrassing. But I love I don't have a lot to say about the remake of Salem's Lot, except that I like the actors in it. The copy I saw was like Dean brought it to Iraq with him, or had it in Iraq with him, so it got all torn up by the time I got to see it. So it wasn't the best quality, and I doubt it was the best quality to begin with. But the original was kind of like Dracula, if Dracula was done slightly more correctly in a way than say Nosferatu, but it had a very that was the one thing that I don't think Stephen King even liked about the original movie. That again, Tobe Hooper, I think, did that one. Was the way that Barlow looked, because he looked kind of like Max Schreck in Nosferatu.
Yeah, he looked very Nosferatu-esque. Although it was scary as hell looking, though.
The part that scared me the most about that movie was the Bartlett kid when he came scratching at the window.
Yes.
That gave me nightmares, and I was like in like early high school when I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, more fun stuff. A Vampire in Brooklyn. Anyway,
I like it.
A
lot of people shit on it. I like it.
Yeah, what is wrong with people? Just take it for what it is and enjoy the ride. I see
why some people really don't like it. I do see it, but
you don't have to love it, but you don't have to trash it either.
Think it's great. Yeah, I don't think it's great by any means, but I enjoy it. Of course, that's the one that has Eddie Murphy as the vampire, and Angela Bassett is the main female, and she's very good. I like Angela Bassett a lot. She's a good actress.
Yeah, and this was probably the only movie I've seen Eddie Murphy in where I was like, I can actually buy him as a romantic lead now. And I grew up watching Coming to America, where he is a romantic lead. It's a comedy, just like A Vampire in Brooklyn, but he was a romantic lead. But I was like, see, I take him seriously in A Vampire in Brooklyn. Yes, he was the villain, but he wasn't supposed to be a bad guy at the same time, per se. You know what I mean? Like, he just was what he was.
And I do like that he was kind of like a vampire from the Caribbean. You know, kind of, gave a different take on it. He wasn't, Transylvanian, anything like that.
Right. Throw it out, okay? If it's empty, throw it out.
And one of the funnier parts that I really liked, because me being someone who's not a fan of organized religion, the part when he kind of like impersonates the priest or the pastor of the church.
I don't specifically remember that part, but I remember it's just, yeah. I don't remember that part. I remember her trying to go into a church and she couldn't get in for some reason.
Yeah,
are you thinking of...
I don't remember that in particular, but there's a part where he's trying, she's talking to the rabbi. This is before he tries to turn her.
She's talking to
like the priest or the pastor or whatever to get like advice.
I think you're mixing it up with Dracula 2000.
He has to address, what was that?
I think you're getting it mixed up with Dracula 2000 because Mary had a priest friend.
It happens in Vampire in Brooklyn where he after he kills the pastor, he's talking to Rita, the main female. When she goes to advice for a pastor, but it's actually him as the pastor giving her advice. And then he ends up having to address the whole congregation. And he goes to go into the church and he can't go in. He starts like smoking.
I'm going to have to watch it again. It's been decades since I've watched it.
On the outside. And he starts talking about how evil is good. And like at the end, he's like, if you get yourself a piece of evil ass, woo!
I remember that part. But that's still, yeah, okay. Okay. I kind of remember that part now. Kind of. It's like, that sounds like Little Nicky, but no, I mean, you're right. It's just, I want to address Van Helsing briefly because that's another movie that gets shit on for slightly better reasons, but I still love it, and I still really like the guy who played Dracula, even though everybody hates him for chewing on the scenery until it disappears. I liked
Dracula. I could not stand Frankenstein in that movie.
That's understandable. He's kind of obnoxious.
The friggin' scenery chewing was friggin' Frankenstein in that movie. I could not stand him. But I liked the Dracula. I liked the guy who played Dracula.
Yeah.
And who doesn't like Hugh Jackman? And I'm not the biggest fan of his acting. He's just a nice person.
Yeah, but, he's amazing. I mean,
that movie, I enjoyed it when it first came out, but the more I watch it, and I own it, but the more I watch it, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of crap.
Yeah,
but
it's got its issues.
Crap.
Yes, it's enjoyable crap. It's a good, bad film. All right, let's talk about these two together because they have a joining theme, and I don't think you've seen one of them. The Hunger and Family Blood. Because
I have seen The Hunger, I have not seen Family Blood.
Because they both treat vampirism to equal and parallel addiction.
Okay.
I don't remember The Hunger particularly well, but Family Blood came out I think last year or the year. It came out sometime after 2014. During or after 2014. So it's fairly new. It stars the blonde from Hocus Pocus.
Sarah Jessica Parker?
No.
Vanessa Shaw.
Shaw. So The Hunger is Susan Sarandon and David Bowie and Deneuve, I believe. Catherine Deneuve.
Catherine Deneuve.
Yeah. And I like the lore of that one because you have the vampires who are like the people who are made by Catherine Deneuve's character. And, it's like they're ageless up until a point where all of a sudden age catches up with them and they might as well be dead, but they never die.
Right. They're just like vegetables in a casket up in the attic.
Yeah. And they have to feed like once every week, I think. Something like that. They have to. And when they're hungry, the symptoms of their hunger, I'm sort of stealing this from Alyssa again because I can't remember all the details for myself personally. It's just been too long since I've seen it for myself. They echo the symptoms of addiction withdrawal, drug withdrawal. So I, that exists there. And then in Family Blood, Shaw plays a mother who is a recovering addict who then gets attacked by somebody in her AA, in her Narcotics Anonymous group, who is a vampire, and she is going through the transition. And it's been it's a long, drawn out, kind of dull movie. It kind of feels anticlimactic to me in the end. But in the end, she is a vampire. It's like their teeth all go bad, like they've been on meth for a really long time, and they have to like wear dentures over it in order to feed and everything. But the same thing. They're hungry and they go through the symptoms of withdrawal. And how do I describe the vampire that attacks her in this? He acts like a friend, and he acts kind of like Jerry from both versions of Fright Night, like a combination of those two.
Okay.
And something like Christian Grey too. He acts like he wants to be her friend and have a companion and take care of her. But when the son tries to defend his family, at first he's like, hey, your mom's going to get through this. I can help her. Things will be okay. But he's really trying to break her into his cult of vampirism to make her a bloodthirsty vampire, and he's going to beat the shit out of the family. And there are a bunch of fights involving that. A bunch of like nasty, bloody fights until they finally manage to kill him. Because the mom is kind of an obstacle because he's helping me. He's helping me feed and he's taking away all my symptoms and I need the blood. And I don't know what I'm doing, So he's her crutch, so she doesn't want to let the kids get rid of him. So it involves all that. It is kind of a dull movie, but it's worth watching at least once. You know what I mean? Because it's something that's been done before, but it's done differently. Make sense? Let's talk about another movie we've both seen that I think we both enjoy on one level or another. Let's talk about Daughter of Darkness with Mia Sara and Anthony Perkins.
Yep. It's one that I remember seeing as a kid, and I remembered one particular part very much, and then I didn't see again until years later. Yeah. I finally tracked it down, like on YouTube or something, and watched it, and it was very different from what I remembered.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it a lot. I think I remembered the scene pretty much where the vampire reveals himself as a vampire with a victim. I remembered that differently in my head than how it actually plays out in the movie. But yeah. I remembered the tongue thing, because he doesn't have fangs, it's like a tongue thing.
Yeah. Which is so funny, because you told me about Daughter of Darkness, but you never told me that detail about it. I wrote my vampire story, and when I was like, oh, it's kind of like a bee sting. It's something that comes out of their tongue. You're like, that's in the Daughter of Darkness. And I'm like, I swear to God, I've never heard of this. I just thought I made up something awesome. Damn it. I've never seen it.
Anthony Perkins is supposed to be some kind of vampire royalty.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of like the Dracula. He's a prince.
Mia Sara's father.
Yeah.
And so she kind of tracks him down and goes to see him in Romania or wherever it is.
Romania, yeah.
She tracks him down to go see him, and at first he tells her that that her father died and he's somebody else working at this. I want to say it's like a forge or something, and then come to find out that he actually is her father. And when she gets involved with the vampire coven that's there, she finds finds out he's kind of like the royalty. He's like vampire royalty. And the head of the vampire coven wants her to be his companion.
Because this is another version of vampires where they're not supposed to be able to procreate, but because the prince could, that means they can procreate with her, and they want to use her for that. Among other things, yeah. I haven't seen Mia Sara in much.
She's something that's not supposed to exist. They're not supposed to be able to procreate, but for some reason she was born.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they assume that means she'll be able to give them kids. They assume that they can do it too. It's like, what? Why would you? What if it's just your prince? You know, what if you guys couldn't do it? Then you would have done this for nothing. This poor girl, you know. It's like Mia Sara tends to play would-be rape victims a lot. Because, I mean, in Legend, Darkness wants to get with her. I mean, in the original script, he does screw her. And she turns into a weird cat lady.
That does happen in the original.
Then she
didn't have the villain, not the princess.
Yeah. Then she was in I think it's called Madness with Burt Reynolds, and he rapes her in that. And then she was in and she was in Daughter of Darkness, where, you know, the secondhand man wants to get with her and doesn't care if she wants to or not. Ugh.
Well, he does attempt to do the romantic thing at first, but when that doesn't work, then he goes more rapey.
Yeah, well, he didn't actually give a shit about her anyway, so, you know, it wouldn't have mattered if she'd said yes, because he would have just gotten what he wanted out of her and dumped her later. You know? But I like that one. It's a little bit unusual. It has a lot of the typical vampire tropes, except this weird tongue thing.
I think it was actually a made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
I don't think it was actually like a cinema film. It was made for TV.
It was made for TV. That's part of the reason I thought it was a full moon picture for a really long time. Because it was made for TV. It had the same kind of budget and cinematography to it. Let's see. We talked about vampire journals. How about... Okay, we'll go over the Fearless Vampire Killers because there's so much to talk about just talking about that one thing. At least on my end there is. Did you actually get to see the Fearless Vampire Killers, the Roman Polanski movie with Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski in it?
I have not seen it, but it's one that I want to see.
It might as well be a silent film. But it's a loving satire of all the Hammer horror films, and there's not a lot of dialogue, and it's very dated and cheesy, and it's got as far as I'm aware, the original version of the joke that Sean Patrick Thomas has in Dracula when he says, "Sorry, dude, I'm an atheist." If you remember that part of Dracula 2000, because Chagall, the innkeeper, who is the main girl's father, he's Jewish. So when he wakes up as a vampire and, the hero is trying to do the cross thing, he's like, "You got the wrong vampire." And of course, the Fearless Vampire Killers, years and years and years later, was turned into a rock musical with music by Jim Steinman, which was done in Germany and Austria, and it's a huge hit over in Europe and Japan. And they tried to bring it here as Dance of the Vampires, but Michael Crawford had to fuck with it, so it got a lot worse. I got to see it on Broadway in its very short run, and I loved it. But, yeah, I have to blame Michael Crawford because he didn't want to do Phantom of the Opera with Fangs, which it was called, regardless of all the changes he forced upon them. And I absolutely love it. I don't love the original movie, but it's funny. It's cute. It's quirky. It might have a later convicted rapist and a future murder victim in it, but it's a cute movie. And I really like the musicals. You know me and my musicals, and those two things together just work for me. They work very well. Okay, hopefully you can help me talk about this one, Mo. Help me talk about John Carpenter's Vampires, because it's been like 20 years since I've seen that one.
Yep, I think it came out around my birthday because I think I went to see it like for my birthday
with Bobby. I think you did. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, with my dad. With my dad, we went to see it for my birthday. It has James Wood as the antagonist, or he's kind of like an anti-hero, and Thomas Ian Griffith plays the main vampire, Valak, who he was the guy who played the main bad guy from Karate Kid 3. He was Terry Silver in that. So it's that guy as a vampire, which I like Thomas Ian Griffith. He kind of disappeared after that. He wasn't in a whole lot of things around that time, but he was trying to do like an action star kind of thing. Just big ups to him because he's from Connecticut, so he's kind of a homeboy.
I didn't know that. The Trash Picture Production says that James Wood saved that movie.
Yeah, he pretty much did.
I like the Padre.
He was one of the highlights.
I always remember the priest.
I did enjoy that movie. I did enjoy that one. That one is one again that has a Western feel to it.
Yeah.
I like the thing that they did where the vampires bury themselves during the day.
Yeah. At least some of them do. The masters do.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're about to talk about the thing that I wanted to talk about. Trash Pictures show says Maximilian Schell as the evil bishop. That was where that movie went wrong for me. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think Mo knows this. Ever since that movie, I have been terrified. I can't even watch the version of Phantom of the Opera that stars Maximilian Schell because that man scares the shit out of me. Pretty damn close to literally. There is something about that man. It's like his smile is creepy as hell. His chain smoker voice is creepy. I mean, it's just, oh, I can't even think about him. Oh, may you rest in peace, Max. You are a good actor, but you scared the piss out of me. I don't want you. Oh, go away. Oh, I can't even think about that movie. It's one of the reasons I stopped watching the John Carpenter's Vampires was because of him.
Well, lucky for you, he's not in it very much. But yeah, he does play like a bishop that was on the side of the vampire the whole time, essentially as a deal for like immortality. Because the vampire is trying to get it to where they can walk in the daylight, I guess.
Yeah.
And another cool turn that they put on the folklore is that Valak was actually created through like a botched exorcism.
Yeah, I liked that too.
So they want to complete the exorcism with this relic, like the Black Cross. They need to complete this exorcism, which will make it so that he can walk in the daylight.
Right.
So that's like the whole driving thing for the vampire. But the bishop was actually working with him as a deal for like to gain immortality.
Yeah.
If he helped them.
Right. He says that means he's a good actor. He's menacing in Cross of Iron. I haven't seen that. But
one of the lower points in that is Stephen Baldwin. Was it Stephen Baldwin or it was one of the Baldwins?
It was one of the
Baldwin, maybe. I think it was Stephen.
I don't remember. I don't. The only one I know is Daniel. Yeah. I know Michael.
Yeah, he was kind of one of the lower points. But he was in there, and there was like a subplot with him and the female in that movie.
Yeah, the prostitute.
Where they kind of have like a little bit of a romance going on by the end.
Yeah. And James Wood says, "I'll give you 3 days."
Yeah, I didn't really care for that part of it. But other than that, I still enjoyed the movie. I liked it.
Who plays the other priest in that one? The good priest. Can you look that up for me? Anyway,
I don't recognize him from anything else, but
I liked him.
I know who you're talking about.
I liked him. I remember when you were first telling me about this movie because of the appropriate teenage.
I like the part where he gets his ass beat. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, but I really like the. I remember when you first saw this movie and you were telling me about it. We were at that hormonal teenage age, and you were like, the scene where he attacks the prostitute because you see him hiding in the ceiling corner, and the next thing you know, the angle of the camera, his head is down between her legs, and it looks like you know what. I was like, we gotta watch it. I was immediately like, we gotta watch this movie. We gotta watch this movie.
Yeah, essentially he bit her like right on the inner thigh, but I think they also imply that he does actually go down on her after he bites her.
So he bites her, but he's nice to her.
So there's that.
No, I have not. I have not seen
Daniel Baldwin. It was Daniel Baldwin.
Okay.
Okay.
I have not seen George A. Romero's Martin, but I really want to. I really want to see that movie.
The guy who was the good priest was Tim Guinea.
Tim Guinea. Okay, I'll have to look him up later. It's not a familiar name. What about you, Mo? Have you seen Martin?
I have not seen it. I've seen a couple in-depth reviews of it, but I have not seen Martin. But it sounds like something that, I would actually be interested to see at some point.
Me too.
It's kind of one of those movies you'd probably have to be in the mood to watch.
Yeah.
But it looks interesting.
It looks fascinating. It looks right up my alley. We talked about subspecies. Do we need to talk about Daybreakers? Because I didn't like Daybreakers, but I remember when I first saw the trailer in the theater, I was like, somebody finally addressed the fucking issue of vampires taking over the world. I was impressed that somebody finally fucking did it.
I like the premise of it. And of course, I like the people who are in it: Willem Dafoe, Sam Neill, Ethan Hawke. And I like the premise of a vampire ruled world. But I don't think that they really. I mean, the idea of like how the vampires kind of devolve when they're starved of blood was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But other than that, the rest of the movie and the way that they quote unquote cure themselves was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was an interesting premise, but the movie itself was just kind of blah. I mean, it wasn't like horrible. And I didn't hate it. I still liked it to a degree, but it was kind of forgettable.
Wasn't Sam Neill the villain?
Potential.
Wasn't Sam Neill the villain in that one?
Yeah, he was the main villain.
Yeah, that's another reason I was like, I gotta see this. All right.
I mean, it was a very interesting premise. It just as a film, it was just kind of mediocre.
Right.
They didn't really go far enough with it.
All right, one you got me to watch, and I don't think I've watched it since, but I do remember some of it rather well, is From Dusk Till Dawn. But then again, to be fair, once you've seen a Tarantino movie, he makes sure you don't fucking forget it. Whether you like him or hate him, and I lean more towards hate him. I don't hate him, I just don't like his style. So I haven't seen a lot that he's done.
He's kind of either it's kind of either like it or you hate it with Tarantino. Some of his films I really like, some of his I don't care for. But From Dusk Till Dawn, it's not. The first time I saw it, it's very much one of those movies that's like two different movies mashed together, because the first half is like completely different from the second half.
Yeah.
So you might as well really talk about the second half of it.
Yeah.
Because that's really where the vampires kick in.
Keep going. I just need to grab a tissue.
The second half of it is very fun. The little dance from Salma Hayek is legendary. She's absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
I do like that how they go into this bar and it turns out all of them are vampires and it looks like they kind of live in some kind of Aztec temple. It looks like at the end it kind of shows that the bar is the top of this like Aztec looking temple. And I've seen these sequels also. The second one is kind of crap. The third one is a little better. The third one is like a prequel that takes place in the Old West.
Right.
And that one's a lot better than the second one. I have not seen the show. They did a show based on it also. I have not seen that, so I can't really comment on that.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge Tarantino fan. I don't really like George Clooney either, so he's kind of a turnoff for me. I'm not a Clooney fan.
Yeah, it was amazing you got me to see that movie because you were like, George Clooney's in it, and I'm like, so fucking what? I'm like, I fucking hate George Clooney.
I'm not a big Clooney fan. I don't get why everybody thought he was the hottest thing for the longest time. He's just not my cup of tea.
I do think he's cute now, but
standoffish and an asshole. But,
yeah, I do think he's cute now, but that's about as far as it goes.
I didn't even find him all that attractive. So, I don't know, it's just not my thing. But I still enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't like, the best thing ever. Right. I just thought it was okay. Of course, one of my favorite characters was Sex Machine.
Yep.
Who played by Tom Savini, who is a special effects legend. And I'm sure he did the effects for the film.
You gotta love a guy who has a penis gun.
Yes, and that's something that's been it's been copied in other things since then.
Yeah.
So every time I see that, I'm like, Tom Savini
did it first. That's right. He wants to know if you.
I did like Harvey Keitel's character was very good in that. He was the pastor that had lost his faith.
Right.
He was very good. Like his interactions with George Clooney's character, I enjoyed. That was kind of the highlight for me.
Right.
Was their interactions.
Trash picture.
Other than that, it was just okay.
She can't hear me one. Yeah. Trash Picture Production says Tarantino peeps up the dialogue, but it's actually Robert Rodriguez directed it.
Yeah, they do a lot of collaborations.
And KNS did the effects, or KNB. Sorry, I can't see that. Did the effects. He also wants to know, have you seen Only Lovers Left Alive?
I have not seen it, but it's one I desperately want to see because I love Tilda Swinton.
Me too.
I have not seen it, but yeah, that's one I want to see because that one looks like one that's definitely different.
Yeah, she lives in like a really remote place where she has trouble just getting cable. So unless it's on a streaming service she subscribes to, she has a hard time getting a hold of new vampire movies. And it takes like 8 years for me to get a hold of a movie now. It just seems to be like it has to be minimum 4 years old before I can see it. And I know it's 4 years old now, but it's still not available on my streaming service on Netflix.
No, I can get a hold of it online, but right now I'm a college student. I don't have a whole lot of time to be watching movies either between class and clinic. I'm a medical student, so yeah. And I don't have any money for extra things right now. Yeah. I'm living off of student loans, so maybe in the future I can get back into that. But that is one that I know of. I have not seen, but I desperately want to see. Yeah.
I have it on my list, but I really don't want to discuss it after all. So I'm just going to say Decadent Evil is another full moon movie that's kind of a grandchild of blood subspecies. And it's so bad that it's bad. Seriously. The only good part about that movie is what's his name from Troll. Phil Fondacaro. Thank you. I knew you would come up with it if I said the dude from Troll.
He's the one that's always good in whatever he's in. He's always good.
Yeah. Fonka! Sorry. Gotta go back to Willow. Can't help it. Okay, Vampire Academy. I've seen the movie once or twice. I don't like it, but occasionally I just find myself in the mood to watch it. Just like Dark Shadows. It's like it's a horrible fucking movie, but once in a while, for some random reason, I just feel like watching it. I haven't read the Vampire Academy books, but I think the lore sounds really, really good. And it had Gabriel Byrne in it, so I had.
seen it. I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
It's not something that I had any interest in when I saw the previews for it.
But Gabriel Byrne was in it, so I had to see it at least once, so I did. And I've seen it like maybe twice since then. Just because. Then you've got something I really can't comment on anymore because I remember very specific images, but I can't remember the movie as a whole or any of its subsequent sequels or TV series. Blade.
Yeah, when that came out,
The Hunger was Dave Bowie, Susan Sarandon. Yeah, we talked about that.
Back when it first came out.
Yep.
And of course, it was a huge hit back then. I want to say, wasn't it one of the first successful Marvel movies? Also,
I don't know about Marvel.
Even though it's not really. Yeah, I think it is a Marvel character.
Okay. It was the first successful comic book movie in a long, long time.
Yeah. Especially that took the material seriously.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I enjoyed Blade a lot. I really liked Blade 2 a lot also. Blade 3 was crap.
He's saying you're right about
Blade
Marvel.
2 was also Guillermo del Toro, and I love Guillermo del Toro, so there you go.
I didn't even like the second one, so.
I like the second one, and the second one had Ron Perlman. Come on.
I don't think I got.
Ron Perlman.
I don't think I got far enough into the second one to know Ron Perlman was in it.
The first one was good. The first one I think had Steven Dorff as the bad guy. He was kind of a child actor who disappeared for the longest time, and then poof, here he is. And then I think he pretty much disappeared again after that.
Yeah. Sorry, my net went down.
But Blade was good. It was one of the first ones that really had, like the whole human hybrid vampire kind of thing where he could walk in the daylight. He was immune. And of course, they're trying to get it to where they can be in the daylight. The vampires are trying to use his blood to achieve that through a ritual that is, I guess, supposed to awaken the blood god.
Yeah, I remember absolutely loving it when it came out. I loved it, but then all of a sudden, it's like I loved it for like the first 3 months, and then all of a sudden I just was like, I don't fucking care anymore. And now, for literally no reason, I have no specific reason except the fact that if I'm right, if my information is correct, Wesley Snipes is a little bit of a racist. But then again, I could be thinking of Denzel Washington, or I could be flat out wrong.
I don't know about the racist part, but he's kind of, especially in the third one, you can tell he just kind of did not give a shit.
Yeah, he gave no more fucks.
Kind of a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah.
And when I say he might be a little bit of a racist, I'm not saying that he's some sort of raging racist, if that's correct. I'm just saying I heard something about him that made me go, what the hell? You're an actor. Act, And like I said, this was information from a long time ago, and I could be wrong, So I'm not trying to bash him in any way, but if I'm going to bash him, I'm just going to say I also just don't like him as an actor, just in general.
Yeah. This was like, he was like an action guy, so
yeah.
He was a good fit for the Blade character. Like, I think if somebody else was to play Blade, I think I would go with like Michael Jai White. I think would be a good Blade. He's the guy who was Spawn in the Spawn movie, which the Spawn movie at the time I really enjoyed, but now looking back at it, yeah, it was pretty crap. But Michael Jai White is still a good actor. But he would be a good Blade if they were to redo it.
That makes sense.
But I believe Wesley Snipes also did another vampire movie that was I don't know if it was a Sci-Fi Channel movie, but it has that kind of feel. It's called The Gallows Walkers, where it's like a Western.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if anybody else is interested in another Wesley Snipes vampire movie, where he doesn't give a shit, go for it.
Are you following the chat room right now at all? Because we're just getting funny over here. He says you're right. He says they had to CGI Wesley Snipes' eyes closed in the third movie because he didn't want to die in the end. So he wouldn't play it like he died, I guess.
I believe it. I know they had a lot of trouble because of him.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble because of him.
Yeah. And just so you know, when I was talking about how I could be misinformed about the racism thing, and it could be Denzel, and I still love Denzel, so I hope I'm not mixing it up with Denzel, and he's the one that's like this. But I heard that I do know he specifically asked that the female lead of Blade be a black actress, so there would be room to interpret chemistry. But I also heard that one of them won't play. It's got to be him, because I know Denzel has actually played with white women as a romantic partner in movies, but one of them will not act in a romantic role with a white actress.
Huh.
Yeah. So I'm like,
I haven't heard that, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like,
and that does bring up a point that the female lead in the first Blade was not actually a romantic interest to Blade. She was just like there and helped him. Yeah,
and which is fine. But he just wanted there, for people, basically the crazy fans who want to interpret it that way, they could, But I'm like,
because there is some chemistry there.
Yeah.
Actually, the creepy part is the one that actually comes on to him is his mother almost.
Yeah. Yes, Toby Hooper's Space Vampires Life Force. We have discussed that one. Very good movie. We like its interpretation, and we think it gets a bad rap. If you want to, in another time, you can rewatch, because I mean, we've got like 60 movies and books and stuff we're talking about here, so we've covered a lot so far. And you're welcome to come back and rewatch that stuff. But if you address something, I'll try and let you know whether we discussed it or not, of course. Vinny, please turn that down a little. One I can only comment on briefly is 30 Days of Night.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that in the theater. I have seen the very shitty sequel as well. That one was a very good movie. I like how it makes sense that vampires would attack a town where it's night for, a month or two at a time. It makes sense. That's a cool idea.
I liked the concept. I hated the movie. I hated the movie.
I also like the way that the vampires are presented, how they're these very, almost feral creatures, and I like how they have their own dialect and their own kind of little hierarchy there. And I like the guy who plays the main vampires, Danny Houston, who's another actor who has a lot of presence, and he's kind of intimidating, has some gravitas to it.
Right.
And also Ben Foster was the kind of familiar to them that kind of lets them take over the town.
Yeah.
And he's almost always good in everything he's in.
Yeah.
But he's kind of a weird guy. He always plays a kind of weird character.
Trash says that
I really like how the vampire.
She can't hear me when she's talking, just so you know. That's why we keep talking over each other. But Trash says the comic books fleshed it out more, and I believe that. I absolutely believe it. The graphic novels. Have not read them, would not be able to, because I can't see them. I couldn't see them back before I lost the vision that I have, so I never would have been able to see them. Believe me, if I could, I would have graphic novels of all the Vampire Chronicles. I did like the take on the vampires, and I did like the basic premise for the setting. I just didn't like the movie. I was like, this could have been done different and better. How? I don't know, but I didn't like it. Yeah, I'm sitting here wishing I could talk about Fright Night because I know it's such a cult classic. You got me to see that one too, but I've seen it once and I didn't even finish the remake, so I can't comment. See, these are the ones I can't really actually comment on now.
Fright Night,
yeah.
I own it. I really like the original Fright Night. I thought the remake was actually okay. I didn't hate the remake.
Yeah.
I also really like Fright Night 2, the original Fright Night 2, not the newer Fright Night 2. That was shit. Because they did make another Fright Night 2 as well. But the original Fright Night 2 also had the same main character actor and kind of followed where he went into after the events of the first Fright Night. And if you haven't seen that one, I believe it's on YouTube. But I really like the second one as well. The second one involves the main vampire's sister, I believe. But it continues the story kind of from the first one.
Okay.
And it still has him and also Roddy McDowell comes back in the second one.
Yeah.
But I really liked the first Fright Night. It's the only movie where I found Chris Sarandon attractive, probably because he was playing a vampire.
Yeah, you add things onto almost anything, we're immediately more interested. You know?
Before that time, I pretty much only knew him as the cop from Child's Play and Prince Humperdinck.
Yeah.
So.
And of course, Jack.
He's a vampire.
Jack Skellington. Oh, I missed Nosferatu. I haven't seen the one with Klaus Kinski in it, and because of feelings I have towards Klaus Kinski, I wouldn't watch it. The guy was a creep. But the original Nosferatu, I actually bought Nosferatu when I came down to see you in Florida, and I didn't get to watch it until I was home, I think. But it kind of bored the shit out of me. It had, Max Schreck seems to have done a great job for a silent movie actor. The makeup was amazing, but it kind of bored me. It was a silent movie, silent films, they have to be extremely special to hold up today. The family opera is one that still can kind of hold up today. There's one in which Lon Chaney plays a supposedly armless knife thrower, and he actually has his arms amputated so that way he can try to get with the girl he loves who's terrified of hands. And that ends up kicking him right in the balls in the end because she ends up she's suddenly no longer afraid of hands and she's with the strong man. That was a good one that holds up today, but it's hard to find a good silent movie that you could enjoy today if you weren't there. You know what I mean? Okay, Dawn. Okay, Mo, are you ready to talk about this one? Because you know way more about it than me. Oh, hang on. What are you gonna say here? It says, "Can't wait for the new What We Do in the Shadows series. Loved the movie." We talked about
we already talked about that a little bit.
But I didn't know
I really love the movie. I'm not the previews for the show aren't grabbing me as much as the movie did, so I'm hoping it does well because I really love the movie. But I'm not really all that optimistic about the show, but I probably will check it out just to see.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's as good as the movie, but it's not looking quite up to the same.
Where will
but we'll see.
Where will that be airing? Do we know?
I don't remember what service it was on.
Okay, well, if you find out, let me know. Netflix? Oh, thank you. I can actually watch that one. Trash just saying it'll be on Netflix.
Okay, well then I'll be able to check it out. I'm hoping it's as good as the film. The film is absolutely hilarious, especially if you are a lover of vampire movies. It's hilarious. But I'm hoping the show is as good. It's just from what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's going to be quite as good, but we'll see. Hopefully it is.
Yeah. Never trust trailers. Never trust trailers.
Yeah, I've always been wary of trailers, but that's my impression from what I've seen about it. But I could be completely wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong. Right. But we'll see.
All right, please talk away about Vampire D. because I remember you getting me to watch it with you. I enjoyed it, but I haven't seen anything about it since.
Okay, Vampire Hunter D. Well, I originally showed you the original anime.
Yes.
They made another one that's called Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, I believe, which is actually, to me, better than the original anime. It's a lot more fluid story, and it's not so choppy as the original was.
Okay.
And it actually tells the story from the third novel, I believe, like Demon Death Chase, I believe. Because this is actually based off of a novel series. And I also have the mangas. I have a couple of the novels, but
Vinny,
I have
please turn that down.
about 6 of the mangas.
Okay.
But it's a futuristic western where the vampires are pretty much like typical type vampires, but they're kind of like I don't want to say royalty, but
aristocracy.
The character of D is a Dhampir, or Dhampir they call it in the anime, but he's a half human, half vampire.
Okay.
And he is the son of Dracula. But of course, Dracula, I don't know if Dracula is supposed to be dead or just gone or whatever, but, and it's weird because they always comment about how beautiful D is. It's like always brought up every time, and it's gotten to the point where it's kind of weird.
Trash just reminded us that D. Trash just reminded us that D has a face in his hand, which I was thinking about and was going to bring up.
He has a symbiotic parasite in his hand that talks. And to me, it's kind of annoying at points, but it does serve a purpose. It does help D out a lot. But I do like the second movie better than the first. It's a lot better put together, and the story is a little more flowing, and the animation is a big upgrade from the original. I haven't read too many more. I haven't read really past, I want to say past the 8th novel. There's like over 20 of these, I believe. But it would be a neat one to see like made into a live action movie. I think would be kind of neat.
That would be cool. Hey Mo.
Because it is a futuristic western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is officially my longest live stream so far. Of course it is. 2.5
hours so far?
Yeah. I mean, I think I haven't even quite reached 2 hours until now, so. Woohoo! Celebrate. Yeah, I wish I could even remember any of Vampire Hunter D. It's like I don't remember plot or anything anymore. I haven't seen it since high school. It's been 20 years.
To you, it's probably just one of those crazy ass animes I showed you back in high school.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was like, you introduced me to so many animes, especially once we could like rent the hentai. It was just like, bam! Here you go. Here's the crazy. Enjoy it. You know, because we got Nightmare Campus, you got Crying Freeman, you got Vampire Knight, you got Perfect Blue, you got Vampire Hunter D, you got Ninja Scroll.
Yeah, I probably could have started you off on something a little less crazy.
Yeah.
But Vampire Hunter D wasn't that crazy. That one was a good one to start with. But then when you jump to Arutsuki Doji, that's a big jump.
Yeah, because we went very fast from Vampire Hunter D to Ninja Scrolls to Wicked City. Very fast. All right, we're going to talk very briefly about this one because Mo and I already discussed it, and we can't really remember it anymore. But there's a movie out there called Innocent Blood. I believe it has an alternate title as well, but I can't remember what it is. I'll be honest. The French Vampire, maybe something like that. It's a cop and a vampire and a mob boss, something like that. I think it was well known for the time for having one of the most, what did you say, one of the most graphic sex scenes for that kind of
One of
medium.
the more explicit sex scenes of that time.
Yeah.
For the time. Plus, it was also kind of one of the first vampiric like dark comedies.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it in quite a while, so all I really remember is you remember the sex scene.
Yeah.
And then I kind of remember when the mob boss got turned. I kind of remember a little bit about that. She accidentally turns the mob boss. She doesn't mean to turn him.
Yeah.
But she accidentally does. And then he comes back and starts killing people.
I remember the very beginning, the mob boss is talking to somebody he's basically going to torture and kill. And he's talking about a pizza and how you have to do it in a toaster oven because if you heat it up in the microwave, it comes out like a limp dick. I remember that line. It comes out like a limp dick. I'm probably using the wrong accent. And I do remember the sex scene, not for its graphicness, but I think when people say graphic, it's because she was in the custody of the cop that was fucking her at the time. She is in cuffs. Even though they're both into it. So I think they see it as a pseudo-rape scene, and that's why it bothers them, because I don't remember it being that graphic. It was like, I've seen Fatal Attraction. Ooh, tits are out. Big deal. And she breaks the handcuffs and keeps going anyway, so...
Pretty much.
Yes, two hormonal teenagers who love vampires. Give us sex and fangs. We're usually pretty happy. And we don't care which gender is the vampire. If it's got fangs, it's allowed. Right, Mo?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, we prefer our dudes, but,
I appreciate a good-looking woman as much as the next person. It's not my cup of tea, but, hey, I appreciate it.
Yeah, just because we don't bat for that team doesn't mean we can't find it aesthetically pleasing. All right, so I've got 2 book series to talk about. What other movies have I not mentioned that you've got?
Let's see. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I didn't really like that one.
I enjoyed it. I just kind of like how they mixed, even though I know it's historical fiction, how they mixed, events from his life with vampire stuff. I thought they mixed it kind of neat. But ultimately, it was kind of forgettable. It wasn't, great. It wasn't crap. I enjoyed it. I saw it in the theater.
Oh, Vinny.
I just, I liked it.
No people hurting people, okay?
One that is really crap would be Blood Rain, the whole Blood Rain series. Which was based on a video game. My God.
Is that the Udo Kier movie? Is that the...
no, that's the Uwe Ball.
Uwe Ball. Oh, yeah, okay. I'm sorry, I got the names wrong. Uwe Ball.
Udo Kier is an actor who's usually good. Uwe Ball.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know either one of them well enough to remember their names properly, so... Oh, God.
The Dark Shadows remake with Johnny Depp, I did not care for.
No.
I thought that was pretty crappy.
I like the original movie version that they made off the TV series, though. Just Dark Shadows. Yeah. Wait, which one? The show was Dark Shadows, and the movie was House of Dark Shadows, I think, right?
No, the movie was also called Dark Shadows.
Oh, okay. Because I remember my mom being like, this one's good. When I was getting into the vampires, she rented me the movie based on the TV series back in the 70s. With the TV series cast. And I was like, it's basically Dracula. What's the big deal? And I was obviously born in the wrong era to appreciate it.
Yeah, it was before our time. The TV show was before our time.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do I have on here? I have Suck, which is kind of a dark comedy with vampires.
Okay.
Also has a pretty good soundtrack.
I want to see
Alice
Thirst.
Cooper has a cameo in there.
Oh, cool.
Moby also has a cameo in there.
All right.
Let's see. I also have The Night Flyer, which is a Stephen King adaptation, I believe.
I never got to watch that one all the way through for some reason. I think I didn't get into it. I have read the short story. I remember bits and pieces of it. I don't remember the whole thing. I remember.
Well, it stars Miguel Ferrer, who was also in The Stand. He was like the right-hand man to Randall Flagg.
Okay, yeah, the guy with the from the prison cell with the stone around his neck, the key around his neck. Yeah, he was also in the remake of The Shining. He did a voice in that. I remember him.
Yeah, he was also in RoboCop. But he always plays a good asshole. But he was in The Night Flyer.
Okay.
I don't really think you don't really see the vampire in that. It's the guy just kind of following what the vampire is doing. He's like, I want to say some kind of reporter or something.
Yeah, he's a journalist of some kind, I think.
Yeah, and he's trying, and when he finally comes across the vampire, actually has a conversation with the vampire. The vampire kind of finds him, essentially.
Right.
And I don't think you ever really see the vampire. You just see like little glimpses of parts of him.
Okay. And he's like a pilot
one
or
of the
something,
parts
right?
that I thought was interesting was one of the victims, I believe, was an older lady who like actually kind of wanted to die like that. So she was actually all dressed up and laying in the bed nice and makeup and everything.
So she's us in an older age. Like, come on in.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm old. Go ahead and kill me.
My fetish death, please.
That was something that I thought was neat. One that I really liked from back in the 80s, I think, Once Bitten, which had a very young Jim Carrey in it. And Lauren Hutton is the vampire in that one. It is a straight-up comedy.
I haven't actually seen it, but again, I've seen Alyssa's reviews, so I know of it.
Yeah, it's one that I saw a lot as a kid, and it's funny. It's definitely very 80s. It's a definite 80s movie. But the vampire in that one essentially has to drink the blood of a virgin every however many years to retain her youth and beauty. And so she's after Jim Carrey because he's like the only virgin around, because of course it takes place in modern times at that time, so most of the teenagers are not virgin. So when somebody's like, well, I could get you, like a 12-year-old, and she's like, I'm not sick, what the hell,
If you're into the feminist view of things, you should look at Alyssa's review on this, because she talks about what about that plot point makes this such a bad movie, even though, as a whole, the movie's not terrible. It's just not great. It's just a comedy. It's just a stupid comedy. But, if you're digging into that type of thing, then you could watch her review on it. Alyssa Hansen's Maven of the Eventide review. I love her reviews. I keep borrowing from her a little bit over here, but she digs into it deeper than I do. I just watch it and enjoy it. I don't dig deep like that.
Another anime that I showed you that I think you actually liked that was vampires was Nightwalker Midnight Detective.
I'm trying to remember if I actually saw that one or not.
I'm pretty sure I showed it to you. It was a series. It was a short series.
Is that?
But I remember you kind of liking it.
Which is the one where I remember there being a certain series where there's like a zombie chick? Is that the one with like the zombie chick? He screws her and she like gets cut and she's not bleeding or something. I remember something. I think the dude in that sex scene was a vampire, and the lady was technically undead or something like that. Not vampire, but
I think that was something else.
oh, okay, my bad.
It might have been that one though. It might have been because there was other things other than vampires in there. But the main character was a vampire, and then the main bad guy was the vampire who turned him.
Okay.
But yeah, and it also has a kick-ass theme song by, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but Book Tick, which is a Japanese, almost like a Japanese version of The Cure, pretty much.
Okay.
But they had a pretty kick-ass theme song for that, and they also did the theme song for Trinity Blood, which is another vampire anime that I haven't really seen too much of, so I can't really comment too much on. Nor have I seen a whole lot of Hellsing. I've seen Hellsing abridged, and that was hilarious. But I haven't really watched the actual like Hellsing or Hellsing Ultimate, original version. I've only seen like the abridged.
Yeah, I think they were available on Netflix, but I just couldn't for some reason. I might be thinking of something else though.
And then another shout out to, which is actually a video game series, which was recently made into a
TV series
anime on Netflix. It's Castlevania.
Castlevania. I remember you telling me about that back when you were playing it.
My favorite Castlevania is Symphony of the Night, so I was very happy that they included that version of Alucard, because Alucard actually shows up several times in the Castlevania series. But that's a big vampire one, dealing with, Count Dracula, and keeps getting killed, keeps coming back. You just can't keep him down. He's like the ultimate cockroach. But in the Castlevania series, there is a lot of religion bashing, which I absolutely love. Because essentially Dracula's wife is killed and burned as a witch by the clergy.
I did see the first episode, but I couldn't watch beyond the first episode for whatever reason.
So he essentially vows revenge, and of course the guy who the priest or cardinal or whatever he was that actually did it thinks, of course, he did no wrong. He's all high and mighty. Fuck everybody else. So when it comes to his time to like get his just rewards, he's in the church and these demons show up. And the demons are inside the church. And there's a really good exchange between like him and the demons there, and I just love it. And he like gets torn to pieces by these demons in the church. It's great. I really like that part. But yeah, it's a different version of Dracula in that. Let's see, what else do I have? Another video game series that you don't really know much about, but I absolutely love, that is super vampire centric, is the Legacy of Kain series, which I brought up very briefly earlier. But it's all different kinds of vampires. It's not, just one kind. You have kind of demonic type vampires, because they evolve in different ways in this folklore.
Right.
And there's also ancient vampires versus how the modern vampires are different.
Cool.
It's a very interesting series. The whole series actually follows the same timeline, essentially. They're all connected. There's, I want to say, 6 games in the series. I would love to see like a movie series or even like a TV series made from this would be awesome. But it's like medieval vampires, there's time travel, there's magic, all kinds of stuff going on. It's great.
Cool.
The main character, well, there's 2 main characters really, Kain and Raziel. The main character is Kain. I mean, it's his namesake. But it's a really great series. It's super story driven. Has great voice acting. It's a really fun series. If you like, old school vampires, the kind that will like tear off your head and shit down your neck, there you go. So Legacy of Kain. You go around killing people because you have to drink blood or you have to eat souls. So there you go.
Yeah. Another anime I was just thinking of is Vampire Knight, which I don't know.
Okay.
Which I had the DVD of a couple of episodes. I don't remember it particularly well. I think the first episode dealt with like an opera singer, and there's a ghost involved, but it's not a ghost. It's, it's one of those multi-supernatural thingies. I thought that's the one you returned to me last time I saw you. So I don't know if you'd seen it since I got it, but I want to also say.
I have not seen Vampire Knight at all.
Oh, okay. But what about the one
So
that
it's
was
not
based?
one that I've seen with you.
Okay. What about the one?
I think that was part of the other one we talked about, of the Nightwalker. I think that was like an actress or something.
Oh, okay. But what about the TV series you told me about? That I think it was the one based on Vampire, not the one based on Vampire the Masquerade, even though I know that was a show. But there's.
Yeah, that was Kindred the Embrace. That was based off Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah. But there was another one. Was there a TV show called Vampire Knight? There was something you told me about, and I don't know if it was Kindred or if it was something else.
It wasn't Vampire Knight. It was something else Night.
Okay.
Forever Night?
Forever Night, yes. Was that one any good?
Where it was a cop, or was he a cop or a detective or something? Something like that.
I don't remember the details. You told me about it so long ago now. I just remember you mentioning it.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in so long.
Okay, that's
But
fair.
it was a TV show. It was a TV show.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, Vampire Diaries and the originals are sister TV shows about vampires and werewolves and witches and stuff like that. But I also have two book series here that one of them I read for a very long time. It's a romance series that got a little bit smuttier with time, but had plenty of melodrama. And if you like vampires or musicals, and I'm a fan of both, that tells you how much melodrama I love, is Christine Feehan's The Dark series. And it's also called the Carpathian series. And I like this series. I was actually going to try and make more of the stream about this, but we just kept going full steam ahead, so it was hard to catch our breath. The reason I really like these vampires is the Carpathians are not, well, some of them, they're not originally humans that have turned vampire. They're a humanic species that have evolved alongside of human beings. And they live in the Carpathian Mountains and stuff like that, and they're kind of more or less isolated. And they have very long lives. They could be essentially immortal, but they don't tend to. They tend to let themselves die eventually. But when they're about 100 or 200 years old, which I guess is kind of their puberty, even though they've been physical adults for a long time by then, they lose the. Turn that down. He's making me lose my train of thought here. The males lose their ability to see in color or to feel emotions. And eventually, if they don't find their life mate who will restore emotion and color to them, they will eventually fall into despair, and they will either do the honorable thing and walk into the sunrise and die, or they will kill while feeding, and they will surrender their souls to the vampire, and they become literal vampires at that point. And they're wholly evil, like their blood is acidic and destructive and everything. And basically, once you're a vampire, that's pretty much it. There's a couple of vampires in the story, Carpathians in the story, that got pulled back from the brink by their life mates, but you kind of can't be redeemed. They are literally, the women are literally the light to their darkness. Many Carpathians who lose their female life mate either choose to die or they turn because they need their light. There are very few who manage to hold out. Like if they have like kids or something, like really little kids, they might be able to hold out for a while, but once their kids can manage on their own, they're gone. They can't survive without the other. I can see a lot of people having issues with this one because this is another like Neanderthal, like woman, your place type of a series. Like they're the gallant noblemen, like the exact kind of boyfriend you want, except they've got the Edward Cullen issues. Do you know what I mean? But I still love the series. I love the take on the vampires. And the other one I want to talk about, I'm going to look up real quick because I want to see if Goodreads will help me. Actually, the Sanguine, what's it called? The Order of the Sanguines. Okay, I need to look this up right. A James Rollins book series, which I just read a couple of years ago. It was not a brand new take on them. Again, it's another case of vampires and vampires being different things. But I've only listened to the one series one time, and I want to make sure I'm talking about it correctly, if possible. I might only be able to read the summary of the first book. I think I told you about this one, Mo. This is the one with Judas and Rasputin and Nazareth. Not Nazareth, Lazarus. Like the biblical Nazareth. Lazarus. I'm running out of steam here. The Blood Gospel should be book 1. Yeah, I think the Blood Gospel is the first book. Let me click on that and see what I get here. I know we're running out of steam a little bit here, guys, but just hold on for another minute or two. Oh, is it co-written? Because it says James Rollins, but it also says Rebecca Cantrell. So maybe it's co-written. An earthquake in Masada, Israel, kills hundreds and reveals a tomb buried in the heart of the mountain. A trio of investigators, Sergeant Jordan Stone, a military forensic expert, Father Room Corza, and Vatican priest, and Dr. Anne Granger, a brilliant but delusional archaeologist, are sent to explore the macabre discovery. A subterranean temple holding the crucified body of a mummified girl. But a brutal attack at the site sets the three on the run, thrusting them into a race to recover what was once preserved in the tomb's sarcophagus. A book rumored to have been written by Christ's own hand. A tomb that is said to hold the secrets to his divinity. But the enemy who hounds them is like no other, a form of ancient evil directed by a leader of impossible ambitions and incalculable cunning. Yeah, it's hard to explain because it feels like a very high octane James Patterson book, but it involves vampires. Lazarus was the first vampire because when Jesus brought him back, he could only bring him back that way. And Judas, of course, was turned at some point, and he wants kind of revenge on God for that. And Rasputin, as in the Rasputin of evil legend, was also turned, and there in the later book we get to see him in like a big cathedral in Moscow or somewhere like that, St. Petersburg maybe, under the onion domes of the cathedral and stuff. It's a good series. It's actiony, and it has to do, there's a lot about the blood and how the vampires function that's different. It's just, we've talked about so many vampires right now, I can't remember. I've only read this series and not even all of them yet, just the one time. It can be hard to get a hold of them, unfortunately, even from the library. They're very popular books. But I would recommend them for vampire lovers. Is there anything else you wanted to cover, Mo?
I think that's everything on my list.
Yeah, I think I got everything on mine too. I skipped one or two things, but I did say when I was skipping them. I think. So. What is that? Vinny does this thing called dabbing, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Ugh. It's like this weird motion he does. I don't understand it. I'm getting too old. I don't understand.
I don't get what that's all about either.
I don't understand. You, Mom.
For a second, I thought he was going to call me a moron. He saved his own butt. Dabbing is dabbing. Okay. We're getting too old to understand these young kids anymore.
Else to add there, any about vampires?
Yeah, maybe. Do you want to say anything else about vampires?
If vampires get you, then you're dead.
See? He knows. He knows. You don't fall in love with them. You don't get eternity together. You're just dead. He knows, right, Mo?
Yep.
Or your soul is damned for eternity at the very least. Screw that. Give me my Anne Rice vampires. Thank you.
They're hot. It may sound like a good idea, but don't do it. It never ends well.
Like teenage suicide. Don't do it. I'm sorry, was that a bad reference? All right, well, I'm exhausted now. My throat is starting to really hurt. And it's kind of slow in the chat room, so we're obviously not keeping people very well entertained right now. But I had a blast talking about this with you. Thank you for joining me again, Mo.
No problemo.
I'm going to remind people that I am having major computer issues, so I'm still going to be doing reviews, but I have to be able to afford a new desktop that actually has 18 or at least 8 RAM and, you know, a terabyte of memory so I can actually do shit. And that's going to take me some time. So I have all the pieces of my magic review on a thumb drive, but I can't put them together and edit it into a review until I get that fixed. So it's going to be live streams for a while. I don't know when I'll do my next live stream, but I can promise one at the end of July because I will be talking about the Vampire Diaries with my many times joined sister-in-law. Please share this, tweet it, like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye, Internet.
Bye.
Vinny says bye. I said end stream. Why doesn't it want to let me end the stream? Okay, there we go.